Ethan, are you trying to push my buttons? Sophia Sterling was practically vibrating with rage. This man, Ethan Vance, had been cursing her out in his head. She was the CEO of Sterling Enterprises, a woman whose slightest whim could make Stanton City tremble. And now this. This nobody was silently tearing her apart. Wait a minute, she thought, a sudden stillness overtaking her. He's cursing me in his head, and I can hear him. Her sharp, almond-shaped eyes narrowed, scrutinizing Ethan as he stood before her. This man, her fiancé in name only, currently had his head bowed, the picture of deference. There was no outward sign of the mental tirade she'd just been subjected to. Ms. Sterling, you misunderstand. I would never. Ethan looked up, a perfectly crafted, placating smile on his face. But simultaneously, Sophia clearly heard another voice. This Ice Queen's lost her mind again. Yanking me out of a board meeting this early just to chew me out? Sophia's pupils contracted. Ethan's lips hadn't moved, yet that voice, so different in tone from his polite facade, had undeniably come from him. What did you just say? She asked, testing the waters. Ethan looked baffled. I didn't say anything, Ms. Sterling. Is she on something today? I literally haven't said a word. The voice echoed again, laced with clear impatience. Sophia's fingers drummed unconsciously on her polished mahogany desk, her heart racing. She could actually hear Ethan's thoughts. The revelation was both shocking and infuriating. Shocking because of its supernatural nature, infuriating because of Ethan's two-faced hypocrisy. The charity gala next Wednesday. You'll accompany me, she said abruptly, wanting to test this new ability further. Ethan nodded immediately. Of course, Ms. Sterling. It would be my honor. Great. Another night of putting on a lovey-dovey show for those vultures. God knows how many hours I'll be on my feet this time. Last time I got blisters. His mental voice was a litany of complaints. Sophia's lip twitched. 3 years ago, her father had insisted on this engagement. The Vance family fortune had dwindled, he'd said, but Ethan was a reliable man who could help her solidify her position at Sterling Enterprises. For 3 years, Ethan had been impeccable, obeying her every command, playing the role of the model fiancé in public. Now it seemed it had all been an act. You can go, she said coldly, needing time to process this. Ethan practically bolted, relief washing over him. And Sophia heard it again. Finally, my face was about to crack from holding that fake smile. She's been extra psycho today. Menopause hitting early? The moment the office door clicked shut, Sophia snatched the heavy crystal paperweight from her desk and hurled it against the wall. It shattered with a sharp crack, expensive fragments scattering across the floor. Ethan Vance, you have some nerve, she seethed. Her assistant, Lily Mays, heard the crash and poked her head in, her face paling at the sight of the mess. Ms. Sterling, are you all right? Fine. Sophia took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. Have maintenance clean this up. Lily hesitated. Ms. Sterling, Director Coleman called. There's a problem with the Genesis project. The other party is demanding to renegotiate. Sophia's expression darkened further. The Genesis project was Sterling Enterprises' most crucial overseas venture, and they'd already sunk a massive amount of capital into it. If it went south, get the car. I'm going to Genesis Tech myself. She stood, straightening her designer suit jacket. Notify legal and the project team. Meet at Genesis Tech in 30 minutes. As she strode out of her office, Sophia's peripheral vision caught Ethan at the end of the hallway. He was laughing with a young woman from accounting, Amy, looking completely at ease. Finally escaped that dragon lady. Amy's so much easier to talk to. At least she actually smiles at me. Ethan's thoughts drifted over. Sophia's stride faltered, an unfamiliar irritation tightening her chest. She marched towards him, her stilettos clicking sharply on the marble floor. Ethan, you're coming with me to Genesis Tech, she commanded. The smile on Ethan's face froze. Ms. Sterling, I'm not on that project team. I said, you're coming with me. Sophia enunciated each word, leaving no room for argument. In the elevator, the confined space made Ethan's inner voice even clearer to Sophia. What the hell? I don't know jack about that project. What's she dragging me along for? I candy? Though, Genesis Tech. That pause set Sophia on edge. She glanced sideways at Ethan, noticing a flicker of something unnatural in his expression. Isn't Genesis Tech already? Never mind. Play it by ear. Have you had any recent contact with anyone from Genesis Tech? Sophia asked suddenly. Ethan flinched. No. Why do you ask, Ms. Sterling? How would she know? No, she can't possibly know. His mental panic was palpable. Sophia's heart sank. A problem with the Genesis project, and Ethan just happened to have some connection to Genesis Tech? It was too much of a coincidence. Just curious, she said lightly, though a storm was brewing inside her. In the car, Sophia watched Ethan in the rearview mirror. He stared out the window, seemingly calm, but his inner voice betrayed his anxiety. Hope they've handled things on their end. If she finds out what? Sophia interjected coldly. Ethan whipped his head around. What? Nothing. Sophia averted her gaze, her internal alarms blaring. She'd always considered Ethan a useless, decorative fiancé. Now it seemed he might be hiding much bigger secrets. The atmosphere in the Genesis Tech conference room was tense. The lead negotiator, a Mr. Smith, looked apologetic. Ms. Sterling, I'm terribly sorry, but we've received a more competitive offer. The board is insisting on a reevaluation. Who made the offer? Sophia cut straight to the point. Mr. Smith hesitated. That's commercially sensitive information, I'm afraid. Good thing I gave Mr. Thorne heads up. Otherwise, this would have blown up today. Ethan's thought came through again. Mr. Thorne? Sophia's mind immediately conjured the smarmy face of Marcus Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries, Sterling's biggest competitor. After the meeting, Sophia excused herself to the restroom, but instead ducked around a corner in the hallway. She saw Ethan furtively heading towards a stairwell and quietly followed. Do what you said. They've agreed to renegotiate. Ethan's hushed voice carried down the stairwell. Yes, tomorrow. No, she doesn't suspect a thing. Sophia's nails dug into her palms. She'd always assumed Ethan was merely unhappy with their arranged marriage, not that he'd betray Sterling Enterprises and collude with a competitor. Back in the car, Sophia feigned nonchalance. Straight back to the office. Finally got through that. Tomorrow, I can't. Ethan's thoughts abruptly cut off, as if he'd realized he shouldn't think further. Sophia smirked. If fate had given her this ability, she was damn well going to use it. Ethan wanted to play dirty? She was more than ready. Ethan, she said suddenly, come to my apartment tonight. We need to discuss something. Ethan was clearly taken aback. Tonight? Is there a problem? Sophia arched an eyebrow. No problem. Ethan shook his head, but his inner voice betrayed his true feelings. Ugh, gotta deal with her again. Annoying. But maybe I can use this opportunity. Sophia's eyes narrowed. Perhaps tonight, she could unearth a few more of his secrets. Night fell, and Sophia's penthouse apartment blazed with light. She'd changed into comfortable loungewear, poured 2 glasses of red wine, and awaited Ethan's arrival. The doorbell chimed. She opened it herself. Ethan stood there, holding a bouquet of red roses. For you, he said, offering the flowers with a smile. Got them on sale at the florist. She wouldn't know the difference anyway. The contrast between his inner voice and his smooth delivery was stark. Sophia accepted the roses, brought them to her nose as if savoring their scent, then casually tossed them onto a side table. Come in. She decided to strike first. The Genesis project situation. What's your take? Ethan sipped his wine. Business competition is normal, Ms. Sterling. No need to worry too much. Worrying won't help. The contract's practically signed over to someone else. His mental voice dripped with schadenfreude. Sophia's fingers tightened around her wine glass, the red liquid sloshing slightly. I hear Thorne Industries has been making some big moves lately. Ethan's expression stiffened for a fraction of a second. Is that so? I don't really follow that sort of thing. Why is she suddenly bringing up Thorne? Did she? No, impossible. His thoughts grew frantic. Sophia stood up, walked over to Ethan, and looked down at him. Ethan, do you have any idea what happens to people who betray me? The color drained from Ethan's face. Ms. Sterling, I don't understand. You will, Sophia said with a chilling smile. Very soon. Sophia stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, swirling the red wine in her glass as she gazed out at the glittering expanse of Stanton City. Behind her, Ethan sat on the sofa, his posture seemingly relaxed, but his inner turmoil was a shouting match in her head. How much does she know? She shouldn't. I was so careful. A cold smile touched Sophia's lips. She turned, letting her silk robe flow in an elegant arc as she glided towards him. Another glass? She picked up the wine bottle, her voice deliberately soft. Ethan, looking almost flattered, held out his glass. Thank you, Ms. Sterling. She's acting so weird tonight. Did she slip something in my drink? Sophia almost laughed aloud. This mind-reading ability was a godsend. Not only could she see through Ethan's charade, but she could also use it to control the situation. Ethan, she sat down opposite him, her legs crossed elegantly. How long have we known each other? He blinked. 3 years and 4 months. Since that charity gala. Why is she asking this? Did she find out about that car accident 3 years ago? No, impossible. Car accident? Sophia's brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. She remembered a car accident 3 years ago. It was around that time her father had insisted on her engagement to Ethan. At the time, she dismissed it as her father getting senile. Now, I remember you wore a dark blue suit that night, Sophia probed, deliberately testing him. It really brought out your eyes. Ethan's fingers tightened slightly on his glass. You have a good memory, Ms. Sterling. How could she remember? She was blackout drunk that night. Wait, she's testing me. A glint of triumph flashed in Sophia's eyes. So, there was something suspicious about that accident, and Ethan knew about it. Speaking of which, she took a delicate sip of wine, the Genesis Project. What's your take? The abrupt change of topic caught Ethan off guard. I think it's probably just normal business competition. Is it? Sophia put down her glass, her voice suddenly turning icy. Then why would Marcus Thorne know the details of our bid? Ethan's face went white. How would I know that? Sophia stood, looming over him. Ethan, I'm giving you one last chance. Tell me the truth, or... She let the threat hang. Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed. Ms. Sterling, I really don't know what you're talking about. Get out, Sophia said suddenly. Ethan froze. What? I said get out. She grabbed his jacket from the back of the sofa and threw it at him. Now, immediately, Ethan scrambled to his feet, nearly tripping over the coffee table. He snatched his jacket and bolted for the door, his mind a chaotic mess. This woman is insane. The moment the door slammed shut, Sophia let out a long breath and sank onto the sofa. Her performance had been perfect. She'd pressured Ethan without revealing exactly how much she knew. Now, she just had to wait for him to walk right in her trap. She pulled out her phone and dialed her assistant, Lily Mays. Put Ethan Vance under 24/7 surveillance, effective immediately. I want to know about any contact he has with anyone from Thor Industries. Also, I need all backup files for the Genesis project now. Hanging up, Sophia went to her study and powered on her laptop. As the screen lit up, her phone rang again. It was her father. Dad? It's late. What's up? She tried to keep her voice even. Sophia. Richard Sterling's voice sounded weary. I heard there's trouble with the Genesis project. Sophia frowned. News travels fast. It's a small hiccup. I can handle it. Ethan, he hasn't caused you any trouble, has he? Her father's question was oddly abrupt. Sophia's fingers paused on the keyboard. Why do you ask? No reason, just. That boy can be a bit thoughtless sometimes. Her father was being evasive. By the way, next month is the anniversary of your mother's passing. Make sure to keep the day free. I know, Sophia replied softly, a flicker of suspicion rising within her. Her father seemed to know something. After ending the call, she accessed the company intranet and pulled up Ethan's personnel file. On the surface, his resume was almost comically bland. Sole heir to the Vance family, whose business went bankrupt. Richard Sterling had taken him in, given him a job at Sterling Enterprises, and he'd subsequently, and conveniently, become Sophia's fiancé. But Sophia's gut told her there was more to it. Her gaze fell on Ethan's ID badge photo. The Ethan in the picture had clear eyes and a sincere smile, a stark contrast to the man he was now. What had changed him? Or had he been faking it all along? A new email notification popped up. It was the surveillance report from Lily with attachments. Sophia clicked it open, and her pupils contracted sharply. A photo showed Ethan entering a discreet coffee shop. Sitting in a corner booth was Marcus Thorne. Just as I thought, Sophia seethed. She scrolled down, discovering this wasn't their first meeting. Over the past 3 months, they'd met secretly at least 6 times, each time in a different location. What shocked her most was the last photo, Ethan accepting a thick envelope from Marcus Thorne. From its shape, it clearly contained cash. Ethan, how dare you? Sophia's nails dug into her palms. She could tolerate him disliking her, but betraying Sterling Enterprises? Absolutely not. She was about to close the file when a detail in the corner of a photo caught her eye. In the reflection of the coffee shop window, a third person seemed to be observing Ethan and Marcus. The person wore a baseball cap, obscuring their face, but their build was strangely familiar. Sophia zoomed in, but the image was too grainy to make out any features. Frustrated, she closed her laptop. She decided she'd personally confront this corporate spy. The next morning, Sophia deliberately arrived late for the board meeting. When she pushed open the doors, the room was already full, including Ethan, who stood awkwardly in a corner. Apologies, everyone. Something held me up, she said nonchalantly, her eyes scanning each person in the room. Regarding the Genesis project, I have a new proposal. She paused deliberately, observing everyone's reactions. Most directors looked expectant. Only Walter Hayes, the CFO, had a shifty look in his eyes. I've decided to abandon our collaboration with Genesis Tech, Sophia announced, and pivot to negotiations with NT Corp in the U.S. The room erupted in an uproar. That's too sudden. Walter Hayes blurted out. What about our initial investment? Sophia's sharp gaze fixed on him. Mr. Hayes, you seem particularly concerned about this project. Walter Hayes immediately clammed up, but Sophia had already caught Ethan's panicked thought. Crap, NT Corp is Genesis Tech's mortal enemy. This could really screw things up. Exactly. Sophia smirked internally. Her little piece of misdirection had paid off, not only flushing out the mole, Walter Hayes, but also sending Ethan into a tailspin. After the meeting, Sophia deliberately called Ethan over. There's a private gathering tonight. You're coming with me. Ethan was clearly distracted. Huh? Oh, okay. I need to find a way to slip out and meet Thorne about Genesis Tech. 7 o'clock. Don't be late, Sophia said, turning to leave. She already had a plan. At 5 p.m., Lily Mays rushed into Sophia's office. Ms. Sterling, Ethan just left the company. He took a cab heading east towards downtown. Sophia closed the folder she was reviewing. Follow him, but don't let him spot you. She pulled out her phone and opened a tracking app. Last night, she discreetly slipped a micro-tracker into the lining of Ethan's jacket while he wasn't looking. On the screen, the red dot representing Ethan moved rapidly, finally stopping at the Grand Hyatt. Predictable, Sophia sneered. The Hyatt was one of Thorne Industries' properties. Marcus Thorne often met clients there. She grabbed her coat and car keys. I'm going to pay them a visit. You stay here. Notify me immediately if anything happens. 40 minutes later, Sophia stood outside Suite 1808 at the Grand Hyatt. She took a deep breath and knocked. The door opened a crack, and Marcus Thorne's face appeared. Seeing Sophia, his expression froze. So, Sophia, what brings you here? Sophia pushed the door open and walked in. I'm looking for my fiancée. Is there a problem? In the living room of the suite, Ethan shot up from the sofa, his face ashen. Sophia, how did you know you were here? Sophia glanced around, her eyes landing on a file folder on the coffee table. It contained confidential Sterling Enterprises documents. Marcus Thorne recovered quickly. Sophia, you misunderstand. Ethan and I were just catching up. Catching up requires company files? Sophia sneered, pulling out her phone. Should I call the police right now? Let them see what kind of catching up you two are doing. Ethan lunged for her phone. Sophia, let me explain. Sophia sidestepped him, but accidentally bumped the coffee table. The file folder fell, scattering its contents. Not company documents, but a set of car crash scene photos. Her breath hitched. The mangled red sports car in the photos was all too familiar. It was her mother's. What is this? Her voice trembled. Ethan and Marcus Thorne exchanged a look, but said nothing. Sophia picked up one photo. It clearly showed a second vehicle at the crash site. A black sedan, its license plate deliberately obscured, but she recognized a distinctive bumper sticker on its rear. It was Marcus Thorne's car. It was you. She looked up, glaring at Marcus. You killed my mother. Marcus backed away. Ms. Sterling, calm down. It was just an accident. An accident? Sophia's voice rose sharply. Then why did you hide it? Why? Her gaze shifted to Ethan. And why did you help him hide it? Ethan's expression became incredibly complicated. Sophia, it's not what you think. Then what is it? Sophia demanded, simultaneously hearing Ethan's chaotic thoughts. Can't tell her. Promise, Mr. Sterling. But if this continues, my father knows? The realization struck her like a physical blow. My father knows the truth, and he had you hide it from me? Ethan remained silent, but his eyes gave her the answer. Sophia suddenly felt the world spin. For 3 years, she had believed her mother died in a simple car accident, while her father and fiancé had conspired to hide the truth. You. Her voice choked. She turned and fled the suite, tears blurring her vision. As the elevator doors closed, she heard Ethan call her name from behind, but she didn't look back. In the underground parking garage, Sophia stumbled towards her car. Just as she fumbled for her keys, blinding headlights pinned her. A black van was accelerating straight towards her. Look out! A figure lunged, shoving her aside. Sophia hit the ground hard, watching in horror as the van grazed Ethan's side, roared past, and disappeared out of the parking garage exit. Are you okay? Ethan asked, gasping for breath, his arms scraped and bleeding. Sophia stared at him, dumbfounded. Suddenly, she realized she couldn't hear his thoughts anymore. The incredible mind-reading ability had vanished in that instant. Why did you save me? She asked softly. Ethan's expression was unreadable. Because I promised to protect you. Who made you promise? My father. Sophia pressed. Ethan, tell me the truth. Ethan helped her to her feet, but didn't answer. We need to get out of here. It's not safe. Sophia pulled her hand away. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what's going on. Ethan took a deep breath. All right, but not here. Come to my place. I'll tell you everything. Your place? Sophia frowned. In 3 years, she'd never been to Ethan's apartment. Didn't even know where he lived. Yes, Ethan nodded. It's completely secure. Sophia hesitated for a moment, then finally agreed. She had to know the truth, even if it meant reevaluating the man she'd spent the last 3 years with. Once in his car, Ethan gave an address for a high-end apartment complex on the north side of Stanton. As the car sped into the night, Sophia watched the neon lights flash by, a whirlwind of emotions churning within her. She suddenly realized she might never have truly known Ethan Vance. What secrets did the meek man who'd always deferred to her actually hide? And why had her mind-reading ability disappeared at such a critical moment? More importantly, how would the truth about her mother's accident change her relationships with her father and with Ethan? Filled with these questions, Sophia followed Ethan into the elevator. When the doors opened on the 23rd floor, she had no idea that a truth awaited her that would shatter her entire perception of reality. The elevator doors opened on the 23rd floor, and Sophia followed Ethan towards the apartment at the end of the hall. Her heels clicked sharply on the marble floor, the sound unnervingly loud in the quiet corridor. How long have you lived here? She couldn't help asking. Ethan took out his keys. 3 years and 2 months. Sophia's heart clenched. Exactly 2 months after their engagement. So, Ethan had his own place from the beginning and had never mentioned it. The key turning in the lock sounded exceptionally crisp. The door opened, and Ethan stepped aside. Watch your step. Sophia walked in and froze. This was no ordinary apartment. The living room walls were plastered with photographs, documents, and sticky notes of various colors. A massive, intricate web of connections dominated one entire wall. Several monitors were arrayed on a makeshift workstation, flickering with various surveillance feeds. What is this? Her voice trembled slightly. Ethan closed the door and double-locked it. My investigation hub. Sophia approached the photo wall, her heart constricting violently. At the very center were photos from her mother's car crash, with lines radiating outwards to various individuals and clues. She recognized Marcus Thorne, her father Richard Sterling, and even a few Sterling Enterprises board members. You've been investigating my mother's accident all this time. She spun to face Ethan, her voice sharper than she intended. Ethan didn't answer immediately. He walked to a mini fridge and pulled out 2 bottles of water. Sit down. It's a long story. Sophia didn't take the water, nor did she sit. She stood her ground, arms crossed. Start from the beginning. Who are you, really? Ethan sighed and removed his gold-rimmed glasses. Sophia realized then that without them, Ethan's eyes were sharp as a hawk's, a stark contrast to his usual mild-mannered demeanor. I'm a Vance, yes, but not some down-on-his-luck air. He met Sophia's gaze directly. I'm an elite operative for Global Secure Solutions, specializing in corporate intelligence protection and counter-espionage. Sophia's nails dug into her palms. So, your approaching me was on your father's payroll. Ethan nodded. After the accident 3 years ago, your father suspected your mother was murdered and that you were the next target. He hired me to get close to you as your fiancé, to protect you while covertly investigating the truth. A wave of dizziness washed over Sophia, forcing her to lean against the wall. These 3 years. You've been watching me. Protecting you. Ethan corrected. Surveillance was just a means to an end. I checked your food, your schedule, everyone you met, ensuring there were no threats. Sophia suddenly recalled all the coincidences. Every time she worked late, Ethan would happen to show up to drive her home. When she traveled for business, he always found a reason to accompany her. Even her office and apartment had undergone special security modifications. Those decorative vases. She murmured. Ethan nodded. Bulletproof. Your car is also modified, capable of withstanding small explosions. Sophia's chest heaved. She'd always thought Ethan was a useless fixture, never imagining he was doing so much in the shadows. Why the act, she demanded. Why let me think you were incompetent? Ethan's expression grew complex. Your father's request. He believed if you knew the truth, you'd refuse protection or tip off our enemies. And, he paused, an unremarkable fiancé is less likely to arouse suspicion from those targeting you. Sophia walked to the conspiracy board, her trembling finger pointing to Marcus Thorne's photo. Did he kill my mother? No direct proof yet, but all leads point to him. Ethan joined her, indicating several photos. Thorne's car was at the scene on the day of the accident. And according to traffic cam footage, your mother's car was deliberately forced off the road by another vehicle. Sophia's vision blurred. She saw the last photo taken of her mother alive at a charity gala, wearing her favorite red gown, her smile as radiant as ever. Motive? She forced herself to ask calmly. Ethan opened a laptop. 2 weeks before her death, your mother discovered Thorne Industries was cooking the books on the Genesis project to the tune of over $2 billion. She was preparing to report them to the regulatory authorities. Sophia felt as if she'd been struck by lightning. The Genesis project, the very same project currently in jeopardy. So Thorne killed my mother, and now he's trying to steal the project? Her voice shook with rage. Ethan nodded. Not only that, I suspect your father is also being threatened. His behavior has been very erratic for the past 6 months. Sophia remembered her father's recent, frequent recuperation trips abroad and his strange attitude towards Ethan. If her father knew the truth, why hadn't he told her? Why bear it alone? Does Dad know you're investigating this? Ethan shook his head. My initial assignment was just protection. The investigation was my own initiative. Your father only asked me to ensure your safety, not to dig deeper into the accident. Sophia suddenly realized something. So, bringing me here today, you violated your agreement. That van wasn't a coincidence. Ethan's eyes sharpened. Someone wants you dead. Likely the same people who killed your mother. At this point, I had to tell you the truth. Sophia walked to the window, looking out at Stanton City's nightscape. For 3 years, she'd lived a lie. Her father's lie, Ethan's lie, even her own. She thought she controlled everything, but she'd been kept in the dark. Why tell me now? She asked softly. Ethan came up behind her, maintaining a respectful distance. Because I finally found a crucial piece of evidence. He pulled out an old smartphone. This was your mother's. After the accident, it was impounded as evidence, then suddenly disappeared a year ago. It took me 8 months to find it. Sophia took the phone. The screen was cracked, a testament to a violent impact. What's on it? A recording. Ethan's voice was low, made just before your mother was killed. She must have sensed the danger and left this behind. Sophia's finger hovered over the play button, a sudden fear gripping her. This was her mother's last voice, a conversation spanning 3 years, a line between life and death. I need to listen to this alone, she said with difficulty. Ethan nodded in understanding. I'll check the surveillance feeds. Stay here, away from the window. After he left, Sophia took a deep breath and pressed play. This is Eleanor Sterling, Vice President of Sterling Enterprises. Her mother's voice, clear and firm, came from the speaker. I've discovered that Marcus Thorne is engaged in significant financial fraud related to the Genesis project, exceeding. The recording abruptly cut off, followed by a burst of static. Then, her mother's voice rushed and panicked. Someone's following me. 2 black sedans. License plates obscured. If anything happens to me, the killer is though. The screech of tires and a sickening crash cut through the recording, followed by an eerie silence. Tears streamed silently down Sophia's face. She finally knew what her mother had experienced in her last moments. Fear, desperation, and a final, desperate act to protect the truth. Ethan quietly re-entered the room. Seeing her, he knew. You heard it. Sophia nodded, wiping her tears. Is it enough to convict him? Not quite, Ethan said regretfully. It's audio only, no visuals, and she didn't say Thorne's full name. Legally, it's hard to use as direct evidence. Then we find more evidence. Sophia's voice was like ice. I want Marcus Thorne to pay for what he did, in blood. Ethan looked at her intently. That means danger. You saw that van today. I don't care, Sophia interrupted. My mother didn't care about danger. She just wanted to do the right thing. They locked eyes for a moment, and then Ethan suddenly smiled. Not his fake, placating smile, but a genuine, appreciative one. You really are her daughter. Sophia was taken aback. It was the first time Ethan had shown her a genuine smile, and the first time he hadn't used her formal title. From now on, we work together, she extended her hand. No secrets, no lies. Ethan grasped her hand. Pleasure to be your partner. His palm was warm and strong, the skin on his thumb calloused from years of handling a weapon. Sophia only now noticed his physique. Without the glasses and loose suit, his shoulders were broader than she'd imagined, muscles subtly defined beneath his shirt. So she withdrew her hand, trying to hide her discomfort. All those things you thought about me these past 3 years. That was all an act. Ethan raised an eyebrow. What things? Things like Ice Queen, menopause hitting early? Sophia narrowed her eyes. Ethan's expression froze. How did you know? I have my ways. Sophia didn't reveal her mind-reading ability, especially since it had now vanished. The point is, were those your real thoughts? Ethan awkwardly rubbed the back of his neck. Partly professional necessity, partly, yeah, blowing off steam. Pretending to be an incompetent fiancé isn't easy, especially around you. What's wrong with being around me? You're too. Ethan searched for the right word. Dazzling, smart, powerful, beautiful, and you always look down on me. Sometimes if I didn't vent a little, I'd actually explode. Sophia hadn't expected such an answer. She'd always thought Ethan despised her. She never imagined that behind those sarcastic mental jabs lay this kind of admiration. Well, you don't have to pretend anymore, she said, deliberately feigning sternness. Anything you want to say to me? Ethan looked directly into her eyes. Sophia Sterling, you're the most formidable woman I've ever met. For 3 years, I've watched you battle in the boardroom, watched you shoulder immense pressure alone, watched you secretly cry on the anniversary of your mother's passing. I wanted to tell you the truth for so long, but I was more afraid of seeing you hurt. Sophia's heart skipped a beat. Without her mind reading, she could feel the sincerity in his words even more acutely. And now, she asked softly. Now, Ethan took a step closer. I'd rather you hate me for shattering your peace than see you live a lie. They were so close, she could feel his breath. Sophia suddenly realized this was the first time she was truly seeing Ethan, not the masquerading fiancé, but the man who would risk everything to protect her. We need a plan. She took a step back, forcing herself to focus. Marcus Thorne knows he's in danger. That van today was proof. Ethan nodded, walking to the workstation and pulling up a file. I've compiled all the leads. Thorne is not only involved in your mother's accident, but also orchestrated the theft attempt of the Genesis project. More importantly, he pointed to several bank statements. He's recently made large payments to several Sterling board members. Buying off insiders? Sophia understood immediately. No wonder the Genesis project details leaked. There's more. Ethan's expression grew grim. I suspect he's planning a hostile takeover of Sterling Enterprises, and your father might be forced to cooperate. Sophia looked up sharply. What do you mean? Over the past 6 months, shares of Sterling Enterprises under your father's name have been quietly transferred. On paper, it's for asset diversification, but they've all flowed to shell companies linked to Thorne Industries. Sophia's mind raced. If her father was being forced to cooperate with Thorne, what did that imply? Threats? Blackmail? Or something worse? We need to see my father, she decided firmly. Confront him. Ethan shook his head. Too dangerous. Your father is currently recuperating overseas, and Thorne's people are already watching you. Then we flush them out. Sophia's eyes gleamed with resolve. If Thorne wants to kill me, let's give him the chance, and catch him in the act. Ethan's face paled. Are you crazy? That's too risky. Aren't you a bodyguard? Sophia challenged him. Or can't you protect me? Ethan took a deep breath, then suddenly gripped her shoulders. Sophia, this isn't a game. That van today was just the beginning. Thorne has professional killers on his payroll. Sophia didn't pull away. She calmly met Ethan's anxious gaze. Then you should have told me the truth sooner. Only by knowing all the dangers can I truly protect myself. Ethan's hands slowly loosened. You are terrifyingly stubborn. Takes one to know one, Sophia smiled. Now, tell me your plan, Mr. Bodyguard. Ethan shook his head in resignation and walked back to the workstation. I do have an idea, but it requires your cooperation. Just then, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the caller ID, his face instantly changing. It's your father. Sophia and Ethan exchanged a look. He put the call on speaker. Dad! Sophia. Richard Sterling's voice was laced with surprise. Are you with Ethan? Yes. Sophia looked directly at Ethan. We're discussing a lot of things. A few seconds of silence on the other end. Understand. Listen, both of you, leave the apartment immediately. Go to the safe house. Your location has been compromised. Ethan immediately sprang into action, quickly gathering essential equipment. Mr. Sterling, how do you know? Because I just received word. Richard Sterling's voice grew urgent. Thorne has sent 2 teams, one to the apartment, one to the company. Sophia, about your mother. I'm so sorry. Sophia's eyes welled up again. Dad, you knew all along? Not everything, Richard said, his voice pained. I suspected, but had no proof. Later, Thorne threatened to harm you, and I had to— Listen, there's no time. Go. Ethan had already packed a backpack and handed Sophia a bulletproof vest. Put this on. We're taking the fire escape. Sophia quickly donned the vest. Dad, where are you? How do we find you? Go to the safe house, The call suddenly cut off, replaced by a dial tone. Ethan's face was grim. Comms are cut. We need to leave now. He pulled open a drawer, took out 2 handguns, expertly checked the magazines, and handed one to Sophia. Know how to use this? Sophia nodded. College shooting club. Champion. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Another surprise. Let's go, partner. They had just reached the door when Ethan suddenly stopped Sophia. Wait. He pointed to the door jamb. An almost invisible red line had just vanished. Laser tripwire's been triggered, he whispered. Someone's outside. Ethan motioned for Sophia to step back, then moved silently to the side of the door. He peered through the peephole, his expression instantly hardening. 4 of them, heavily armed. Sophia's heart pounded. She gripped the handgun, suddenly realizing this wasn't a business negotiation. It was a real life-or-death struggle. And the man beside her was no longer her meek fiancé, but someone she was only just beginning to understand. Ready? Ethan whispered, his eyes as sharp as daggers. Sophia took a deep breath and nodded. Let's give Marcus Thorne a surprise. Footsteps in the hallway grew closer. Sophia's palm, slick with sweat, tightened around the handgun. Her heartbeat thudded so loudly it felt like the entire room could hear it. Ethan made a silencing gesture, then moved stealthily to the door. 4 of them, he whispered, 2 at the door, 1 lookout at the end of the hall, and 1 heading for the fire escape. Sophia nodded, struggling to control her breathing. She was a master strategist in the boardroom, but this was her first real firefight. Watching Ethan expertly check the magazine, she was struck by how far removed his world was from hers. Ethan pulled a small remote from his pocket and pressed a button. The apartment lights abruptly extinguished, plunging them into darkness relieved only by the faint green glow of emergency exit signs. Infrared. He handed her a pair of goggles. Put these on. Sophia slipped on the goggles, and the dark room resolved into a clear, green-tinged landscape. Ethan had already moved to the kitchen area, retrieving a small metal box from a cabinet. Door opens in 3, he said, returning to her side, his voice barely a breath. I throw the flashbang, you take the one on the left. Before Sophia could protest she wasn't ready, Ethan started the countdown. 3, 2, 1. The instant the door opened, Ethan tossed the metal box into the hallway. And blinding white light and a deafening explosion erupted, momentarily disorienting her even through the infrared goggles. Sophia instinctively turned left as instructed, spotting a shadowy figure clutching its eyes in pain. Shoot! Ethan's shout snapped her back to reality. Sophia pulled the trigger. The recoil was stronger than she'd anticipated. The bullet struck the man's shoulder. He cried out and crumpled to the ground. Simultaneously, Ethan dispatched the enemy on the right, his movements too fast to follow. Go! Ethan grabbed her hand, pulling her towards the fire escape. Angry shouts and the whistle of bullets followed them. Sophia felt something graze her hair. Then Ethan's arm yanked her sharply into the stairwell. They're wearing body armor, Ethan said as they ran. Aim for legs or head. Sophia's mind raced. Her college shooting club experience kicked in, but the difference between a shooting range and a real battle was like the difference between a swimming pool and the open ocean. Same actions, entirely different worlds. They pounded down the fire escape. Sophia had kicked off her heel somewhere along the way. Now, her bare feet slapped against the cold metal stairs, though she felt no pain. 3rd floor turn. Ethan abruptly changed direction. They barely rounded the corner onto the 3rd floor landing when a burst of gunfire erupted behind them. Bullets ricocheted off the metal railing, showering them with sparks. Sophia's ears rang, adrenaline sharpening her senses. Ethan kicked open a door marked utility closet and shoved her inside. The small space was crammed with cleaning supplies, reeking of disinfectant. He quickly locked the door and pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. I've got surveillance in the building, he panted, need to pinpoint their locations. Sophia then noticed a dark stain blooming on Ethan's left arm. You're hurt. Just a scratch. He didn't even glance at it. 2 are blocking the exits downstairs, 1 searching the 5th floor, and 1 is. His voice trailed off. Gone. The hairs on Sophia's neck stood on end. What do you mean, gone? A professional doesn't just vanish. Ethan's expression hardened. He must know. Before he could finish, the vent cover on the ceiling clattered open, and a dark figure dropped down like a panther. Ethan reacted instantly, shoving Sophia aside, but he was knocked to the ground by the attacker. They wrestled violently, crashing into a nearby shelving unit. Sophia saw the killer draw a knife, aiming for Ethan's stomach. Bang! The gunshot was deafening in the confined space. The killer's movements froze. A dark hole appeared in his forehead, and he collapsed heavily. Sophia realized she'd fired. Her arm was still extended, the muzzle of her gun smoking faintly. Ethan scrambled to his feet and checked the killer's pulse. Dead. He turned to Sophia, his eyes filled with a complex emotion. You saved my life. Sophia's hands began to tremble as the reality of what she'd done sank in. She had just taken a life. Even though it was to protect Ethan, the act itself churned her stomach. First time, Ethan asked softly. Sophia nodded, her throat too dry to speak. Ethan took her gun hand. Breathe. Slow breaths. That's it. His voice was surprisingly gentle. You did good, Sophia. You saved us both. He called her Sophia, not Ms. Sterling. The small change made her heart flutter inexplicably. The others will have heard the shot. They'll be here soon. Ethan released her hand and retrieved an access card from the dead killer. We got a pass. Let's take the underground garage. They left the utility closet and made their way through an employee corridor to the parking garage. Ethan located an inconspicuous gray sedan and used the access card to start it. How did Thorne's men know about your apartment? Sophia finally found her voice as they pulled out of the garage. Ethan's knuckles were white as he gripped the steering wheel. I suspect an inside job. Only 3 people knew the location of that safe house. Me, your father, and Lily Mays. Lily? Impossible. Sophia denied it flatly. She's been with me for 5 years. Trust can be blinding, Ethan said calmly. Your father trusted Marcus Thorne once. Look how that turned out. Sophia fell silent. She recalled Lily had been acting a bit strangely lately. Frequent hushed phone calls, occasional unexplained absences from the office. But she couldn't bring herself to believe that the assistant who always called her Ms. Sophia, with a sweet smile, would betray her. The car sped through the darkened streets of Stanton City. Ethan constantly changed routes, checking the rearview mirror to ensure they weren't being followed. Where are we going? Sophia asked. Another safe house, Ethan replied. One even Lily doesn't know about. Half an hour later, they arrived at an ordinary apartment building in a quiet suburban neighborhood. It was nondescript, the perfect hideout. Ethan led Sophia up to the 6th floor and unlocked the door with a fingerprint and iris scan. The safe house was more comfortable than Sophia had expected. A 2-bedroom layout, simply but adequately furnished. It even had a small kitchen. You should take a shower, Ethan said, pulling clean clothes from closet. I'll patch myself up, then make us something to eat. Sophia finally registered her own disheveled state. Her expensive suit was torn and stained with dust and blood. Her bare feet were scratched, and her hair was a mess. The clothes Ethan offered were a loose t-shirt and sweatpants, clearly his own. In the bathroom, the hot water washed away the blood and grime, but couldn't erase the images seared into her mind. The killer falling, his lifeless eyes. Sophia scrubbed her hands vigorously, as if to wash away the sensation. Dressed in Ethan's clothes, she caught a faint scent of pine, his scent. The thought brought an unexpected warmth to her cheeks. Emerging from a bathroom, she found Ethan had tended to his wound and was now in the kitchen, cooking a simple stir-fry. Without his suit jacket, he looked younger. His rolled-up sleeves revealed strong forearms as he expertly tossed ingredients in a wok. You cook? Sophia asked, leaning against the doorframe. Ethan turned and visibly paused when he saw her. A survival skill. He quickly turned back to the wok. It's not gourmet, but it'll fill you up. Sophia noticed the tips of his ears were slightly red. Did she look that strange in his clothes? At the small dining table, they ate in silence. Sophia found she had a surprisingly good appetite, perhaps a natural reaction after the adrenaline wore off. You're a good shot. Ethan broke the silence. Really learned that in a college club? Sophia nodded. My father insisted I learn some self-defense. She stopped, remembering the conspiracy her father might be entangled in. Ethan seemed to read her mind. Your father isn't a bad person, Sophia. He hid the truth to protect you. How can you be sure? Sophia put down her chopsticks. If he was really being coerced by Thorne, why not tell me? Couldn't we have faced it together? Some threats. Ethan's expression grew complicated. Leave you no choice. Believe me, your father loves you more than anything. Sophia stared at him. You know more, don't you? About my father and Thorne. Ethan avoided her gaze. My only mission was to protect you and find your mother's killer. The mission has changed, Sophia said firmly. We're going to save my father and destroy Marcus Thorne. Ethan looked up, a slight smile playing on his lips. Yes, boss. The familiar address, yet it now carried a new weight. Sophia realized she no longer minded Ethan calling her boss, especially not when his eyes held that spark of shared understanding. After dinner, Ethan insisted on checking the cuts on Sophia's feet. She wanted to refuse, but his serious expression made her relent. Ethan knelt, carefully cleaning the scratches on the soles of her feet with antiseptic. His touch was warm and gentle, a stark contrast to the fierce bodyguard he'd been earlier. Does it hurt? He looked up. Sophia shook her head. Her voice caught her throat. From this angle, Ethan's eyelashes cast long shadows in the lamplight, his jawline strong and defined. She suddenly realized he was actually quite handsome, not in a polished pretty boy way, but with a rugged, dangerous appeal forged by hardship. All done. Ethan finished bandaging her feet, but didn't immediately stand up. Their eyes met, and a strange current flowed between them. Sophia was the first to look away. Thank you. Ethan stood, clearing his throat. You should get some rest. We need to figure out how to contact your father tomorrow. He led her to a bedroom. The sheets were a clean, deep blue, the color of his eyes. Is this your room? Sophia asked. Ethan nodded. I use this place occasionally. There's a new toothbrush in the bathroom cabinet. Let me know if you need anything else. Sophia glanced around. The room was Spartan, almost impersonal, except for a picture frame on the nightstand, turned face down. Curious, she waited until Ethan left, then picked it up. It was a photo from that charity gala 3 years ago. She was on stage, wearing a dark blue evening gown, giving a speech. On the back, in pen, was a simple date and 2 words, Day 1. Day 1? Day 1 of what? Sophia suddenly understood. It was the first day of his protection assignment, the first day they had met. Ethan had kept this photo for 3 years, never letting her see it. The discovery made her heart ache in a strange way. Sophia? Ethan's voice came from the doorway. You okay? Sophia quickly replaced the frame. Yes, just a bit tired. Ethan didn't seem to notice. I'm in the next room. Call out if you hear anything. After he closed the door, Sophia sat on the edge of the bed, her mind reeling. The events of the night felt surreal. The gunfight, the escape, the shock of taking a life, and the jolt of discovering Ethan had kept her picture. Yes, she had to admit, that feeling was a jolt, a spark. When Ethan had tended her wounds, when he'd focused on protecting her, even when he'd awkwardly cooked for her, her heart had beat uncontrollably faster. The realization was both thrilling and terrifying. For 3 years, she'd seen Ethan as a burden forced upon her by her father, an incompetent accessory. Now she saw the real him, brave, professional, gentle, even somewhat captivating. Sophia lay in bed, but couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the killer falling, or Ethan's profile silhouetted against a burst of gunfire. After what felt like hours, a faint noise came from the living room. Sophia sat up instantly, alert, and tiptoed to the door. Peeking through the crack, she saw Ethan at the computer, his screen displaying complex surveillance feeds. She was about to open the door and ask what he was doing when she heard him speaking softly into a headset. Target is secure. No, she doesn't know. Yes, usual place tomorrow. Sophia's blood ran cold. Who was Ethan reporting to? What else was he hiding? She crept back to bed, her mind in turmoil. The nascent trust she'd begun to feel was shaken again. Whose side was Ethan really on? Was he a protector, or just another deceiver? A car's headlights swept across the window, momentarily illuminating the curtains. Sophia saw a black sedan cruise slowly past the building before stopping a short distance away. The doors opened, and several dark figures emerged, heading towards their building. Ethan! She burst out of the bedroom. Someone's here. Ethan slammed his laptop shut and rushed to the window. Damn it, they found us. He grabbed his backpack. We need to move now. Who were you talking to just now? Sophia demanded, standing her ground. Ethan's expression faltered. What? I heard you. Reported my status to someone. Sophia's voice was icy. Who was it, Ethan? Who are you still working for? Footsteps pounded up the stairs. Ethan grabbed her arm. This isn't the time for explanations. We have to leave. Sophia wrenched her arm free. Not until you tell me. Ethan's face contorted in distress. It was your father. I was talking to your father. He's in danger. Thorne's men have found him. The answer hit Sophia like a bucket of ice water. Where's my dad? An abandoned warehouse on the east side. Ethan said quickly. He was supposed to meet me there tomorrow, but now. He glanced out the window. We have to go save him first. Sophia didn't hesitate. Lead the way. Ethan retrieved 2 handguns and several magazines from a hidden compartment in the closet. Back door. My car's in the alley. They'd barely opened the back door when they heard the front door being kicked in. Ethan pushed Sophia ahead of him, and they raced down the stairs, disappearing into the night towards the inconspicuous sedan. Why would my dad be in an abandoned warehouse? Sophia asked as the car started. Ethan's expression was grim. Because he's no longer Marcus Thorne's partner. He discovered Thorne's larger conspiracy and was about to expose him. What conspiracy? It's not just about your mother's murder or the Genesis Project. Ethan's voice was low. Thorne has built a massive spy network within Sterling Enterprises, involved in stealing multiple key projects and technologies. Your father only recently realized the extent of it. Sophia's mind raced. If this was true, then Lily Mays was an even stronger suspect. As her assistant, Lily had access to almost all confidential documents. The car sped through the night. Watching the city lights blur past, Sophia realized she was hurtling towards another unknown danger. But this time, she wasn't afraid because Ethan was by her side. The man who had once pretended to be a fool was now her only anchor, and she didn't dare think further. First, save her father. Then, confront Thorne together. As for the complex emotions tangled between her and Ethan, those would have to wait until they were both still alive. 10 minutes to the warehouse. Ethan's voice broke her reverie. Ready, partner? Sophia checked her handgun and nodded firmly. Let's end this. The abandoned warehouse district was cloaked in heavy darkness, with only a few scattered streetlights casting dim, yellowish circles of light. Ethan parked the car a mile away and killed the engine, plunging them into immediate silence. We walk from here, he said in a low voice, pulling 2 earpieces from his backpack. Keep comms open. Sophia put in her earpiece, the cool plastic pressing against her ear. She checked her handgun, magazine full, safety off. 3 hours ago, she'd never imagined she'd be holding a real gun, sneaking into a dangerous area. Warehouse has 3 entrances, Ethan said, pulling up a floor plan on his phone. Main entrance will be guarded. We'll take the west side loading dock. Sophia nodded, following Ethan silently through a patch of overgrown shrubs. Her sneakers made almost no sound on the damp earth. Ethan walked ahead, his silhouette strikingly upright in the moonlight, a far cry from the meek fiancé who used to shuffle around her office. Ethan's voice suddenly crackled in her earpiece, camera 20 yards ahead. Wait for me to disable it. He moved like a phantom towards a utility pole, scaled it in a few quick movements, and severed the camera wire with a knife. Clear, he said, dropping back down and dusting off his hands. Let's move. Sophia caught up to him. Is this all standard bodyguard training? A faint smile touched Ethan's lips. Advanced course at Global Secure Solutions. Took me 3 months to master silent climbing. They reached the loading dock. A rusted metal door stood ajar, revealing a pitch-black interior like a gaping maw. Ethan motioned for Sophia to stay against the wall while he slipped inside to reconnoiter. A few seconds later, his voice came through her earpiece. Clear. Come on in. Sophia stepped into the warehouse. The smell of mildew and engine oil hit her immediately. In the darkness, only a few distant emergency lights provided faint illumination, outlining a mountain of wooden crates. Your father should be in the second-floor office. Ethan pointed to a metal staircase. I'll go up first. You cover me. Sophia nodded, raising her weapon to scan their surroundings. Ethan ascended the stairs as lightly as a cat, without making a sound. Just as he was about to reach the second-floor landing, Sophia heard a faint click, the sound of a gun being cocked. Ethan, right side, she yelled instinctively. Almost simultaneously, a muzzle flash erupted from the darkness. Ethan ducked sharply. The bullet ricocheted off the metal railing where his shoulder had been, sending sparks flying. Sophia fired without hesitation towards the source of the gunfire. A grunt, and a shadowy figure stumbled and fell. Nice shot. Ethan's voice came through her earpiece. Keep covering me. Sophia's heart hammered, but her hands were surprisingly steady. This was what combat felt like. No time to think, only instinct and training merging into conditioned reflexes. Ethan had disappeared into the darkness on the second floor. A moment later, a few short bursts of gunfire, then the sound of heavy objects falling. Sophia, up here, he called. Sophia quickly climbed the stairs. On the second-floor landing, she saw 2 downed men in dark clothing. Ethan stood before a door marked manager's office, his face grim. What is it? She ran to his side. Ethan pushed the door open. Your father's here, but it's not good. Sophia burst into the room. The sight that greeted her made her blood run cold. Her father, Richard Sterling, was tied to a chair, his face bruised and bloody, his suit stained dark red. A terrible wound on his chest oozed blood slowly. Dad! She knelt before him, her hands trembling as she fumbled with the ropes. Richard Sterling barely managed to open his eyes. So, Faya. His voice was so hoarse it was almost unrecognizable. How? Ethan, why did you bring her here? We're getting you out, Ethan said, quickly examining the wound. We need to stop the bleeding now. Sophia tore off her jacket and pressed it against her father's chest. Who did this? Marcus Thorne. Richard Sterling shook his head weakly. Not just him. He suddenly grabbed Sophia's hand. Listen to me. Nixnet, they're the real. A wave of dizziness suddenly washed over Sophia, the edges of her vision flickering with white light. The sensation was familiar, like the onset of her mind-reading ability. Sure enough, the next instant, a torrent of voices flooded her mind. Damn it, where's backup? That was Ethan's thought. Boss said, leave no one alive. From one of the assailants downstairs. And clearest of all, her father's thoughts. Must tell Sophia about the chip. The quantum core hidden in the Genesis project. Nixnet will stop at nothing to get it. Quantum core, Sophia blurted out. Richard Sterling's eyes flew open. Yep. How did you know? Ethan looked at her, in surprise. What chip? Sophia didn't know how to explain. Just then, her mind reading picked up more urgent information. 3 teams moving in from the north. Prepping incendiaries. More coming. She grabbed Ethan's arm. At least 3 teams, and they have incendiaries. Ethan didn't question her source. We have to leave now. He hoisted Richard Sterling onto his back. Emergency exit. They'd barely burst out of the office when an explosion rocked the floor below. Tongues of fire instantly engulfed the stacked wooden crates on the first floor, thick smoke billowing upwards. This way, Ethan led them down a narrow corridor. Sophia followed closely, her mind-reading ability still active, constantly feeding her enemy locations. Left corridor blocked. Guarding the back exit. Can't use the back exit, she yelled. It's an ambush. Ethan veered toward the ventilation window. Then we go out this way. He kicked out the glass, carefully helped Richard Sterling out, then assisted Sophia. Just as he was about to climb through himself, a dark figure appeared at the end of the corridor. Ethan, watch out. A gunshot rang out. Ethan grunted, but managed to scramble through the window. Sophia saw his right arm was soaked in blood, but there was no time. They had to get away. The 3 of them stumbled across the open ground behind the warehouse, racing towards another car Ethan had stashed nearby. After settling Richard Sterling in the back seat, Ethan quickly started the car and sped away from the now blazing warehouse. Where are we going? A hospital is too risky, Sophia said, trying to staunch her father's bleeding. I know a doctor, Ethan said, gritting his teeth against the pain in his arm. Specializes in this kind of wound. Sophia's mind reading was still active. She heard Ethan's intense thought. Hang on, I have to get them both out safely. I'd rather die than see her hurt. This thought, so clear and strong, brought a faint blush to Sophia's cheeks. She glanced at Ethan's profile, then saw him watching her in the rearview mirror. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. Dad, hang on. Sophia turned to her father. Tell us about Nixnet. What's the quantum core? Richard Sterling weakly opened his eyes. Nixnet, international corporate espionage ring. Fronts as a consultancy firm. In reality, he coughed, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. They killed your mother because she discovered the secret in the Genesis project. What secret? Sophia pressed. A quantum computing chip. The quantum core, hidden in the Genesis project's AI algorithms. Your mother stumbled upon it. Marcus Thorne was working for Nixnet, stealing our technology. Ethan interjected suddenly. So that car accident 3 years ago was no accident, Richard Sterling confirmed. It was murder. I found evidence later, but Thorne threatened to harm Sophia. I had to pretend to cooperate. Sophia squeezed her father's hand. Why didn't you tell me? We could have fought them together. Too dangerous. Richard Sterling's voice grew weaker. It wasn't until recently I discovered Nixnet's plan to formally steal the chip next week. I decided to fight back. Where's the chip now? Ethan asked. The company. My private safe. Richard Sterling suddenly gripped Sophia's hand. The combination is your birthday. Reversed. His eyes began to lose focus. Sophia frantically patted his face. Dad, stay with us. We're almost there. Ethan slammed on the accelerator, the car flying through the night. 10 minutes later, they pulled up to an unassuming single-story building. Ethan rang the doorbell 3 times, then twice, then once. The door opened, and an elderly man with white hair eyed them warily. Ethan, kid? What trouble this time? Gunshot wound, severe blood loss, needs immediate surgery. Ethan cut him off, carrying Richard Sterling inside. The next 2 hours were the longest of Sophia's life. She sat in a Spartan waiting room, her hands stained with her father's blood. A nurse had bandaged Ethan's arm, and now he was trying to contact his GSS colleagues. The doctor was my army buddy, he said, sitting down next to Sophia. Best combat surgeon there is. Your father will be fine. Sophia looked up at him. Her mind-reading ability picked up Ethan's unspoken worry. He's lost too much blood. Hope old Chin can work a miracle. He'll make it, Sophia said, not sure if she was trying to convince Ethan or herself. He has to. Ethan, surprised by her conviction, hesitated, then gently took her hand. Yes, he will. The simple gesture sent a wave of warmth through Sophia. For 3 years, she'd never imagined a moment like this with Ethan. Not acting for social appearances, but genuinely relying on each other. Ethan suddenly asked, back at the warehouse, how did you know where the enemies were? Sophia bit her lip. I don't fully understand it myself. Sometimes, especially in dangerous situations, I can hear people's thoughts. Especially yours. Ethan's eyes widened. So for the past 3 years. Not all the time, Sophia quickly clarified. It comes and goes. Like right now, I can hear you thinking, this is incredible, but it explains a lot. Ethan's expression shifted from shock to understanding, then to a strange sort of embarrassment. So, how much have you heard? Sophia's face suddenly felt hot. She certainly remembered the Ice Queen remarks, but now wasn't the time for old grievances. Just some work-related thoughts. It was a white lie. She didn't want Ethan to know she'd also heard his I'd rather die than see her hurt sentiments. The doctor pushed open the door, interrupting them. The patient is stable for now, but the bullet grazed his lung. He needs specialized equipment for further treatment. Can we move him? Ethan asked. Risky, but better than keeping him here, the doctor said, wiping sweat from his brow. I have a more secure medical facility on the outskirts of town. I can arrange a transfer. Ethan nodded. Do it immediately. While the doctor prepared for the transfer, Sophia and Ethan had a brief moment alone. What now? Sophia asked. If Nixnet really plans to steal the chip next week. We have to get to it first, Ethan said firmly. Then contact Interpol. Nixnet is a globally wanted organization. With evidence, they can't escape. A thought struck Sophia. My father said the chip is hidden in the Genesis Project. Lily Mays is in charge of the Genesis Project. Ethan's expression grew grim. You're right. She's very likely Nixnet's inside woman. The possibility made Sophia's stomach churn. Lily had been with her for 5 years, involved in almost every core project. If she was a spy, Sterling Enterprises' secrets might already be catastrophically compromised. We need to go back to the office, she said, standing up, as soon as possible. Too dangerous, Ethan objected. Thorne's men will have the entire building under surveillance. Then we find a way to sneak in, Sophia insisted. The quantum core is more important than our safety. If Nixnet gets it, she didn't finish, but they both understood the consequences. Quantum computing technology in the hands of a criminal organization could unleash unimaginable disasters. Ethan finally relented. All right, but we wait until morning, blend in with the early rush hour crowd. And he gestured to his wound. I need this properly treated. You need a change of clothes too. Sophia finally noticed her own wretched state. Her athletic wear was blood-stained, her hair disheveled, her face pale. She certainly couldn't blend into a corporate office looking like this. The doctor provided simple toiletries and a clean t-shirt. In the basic bathroom, Sophia finally had a chance to wash the blood and grime from her face. The warm water was soothing, washing away some of her exhaustion. When she dried her face and looked up, the woman in the mirror was almost unrecognizable. Dark circles under her eyes, lips chapped from tension, but her gaze was more determined than ever. Was this the real her? No longer the aloof Ice Queen CEO, but an ordinary woman who could feel fear, bleed, and fight for those she loved? When she came out, Ethan was rebandaging his arm. Blood had soaked through the temporary dressing, and his movements were clumsy from the pain. Let me. Sophia took the bandage. Ethan didn't refuse. Up close, Sophia could see his arm bore more than just this new wound. A collection of old and new scars chronicled the man's dangerous life. All from work? She asked softly, carefully cleaning the wound. Most of them. Ethan's voice was a bit strained. This long one was in the Middle East, protecting an oil exec. Sophia's fingers gently traced the jagged scar. Did it hurt? Didn't feel it at the time. Ethan managed a small smile. Adrenaline's a wonderful thing. When she finished, Sophia didn't immediately pull away. They were close enough to feel each other's breath. Ethan's eyes, in the dim light, were a deep blue, like an ocean holding secrets. She wasn't sure who moved first, but their faces drew closer. Just as their lips were about to touch, the doctor coughed from the doorway. The transport is ready. They sprang apart as if shocked. Sophia's cheeks burned, and she couldn't meet Ethan's eyes. Ethan quickly stood up, feigning an adjustment to his backpack to hide his own embarrassment. The transfer went smoothly. Richard Sterling was placed in a specially equipped vehicle disguised as an ambulance. escorted by the doctor himself. Before they left, Sophia gently kissed her father's forehead. "Hang on, Dad. I'm going to get back what's ours." Richard Sterling weakly squeezed her hand. "Be careful. Lily, she's more than just a spy." "I know," Sophia nodded. "I'll be careful." After watching the ambulance depart, Sophia and Ethan got back into their car. The sky was beginning to lighten in the east. A new day was dawning. "First, to my other safe house," Ethan started the car. "Change clothes, get some gear, then we hit the office." Sophia nodded, then remembered something. "Wait, today's Saturday. The office will only have security and a few people working overtime." "Perfect," Ethan smiled. "The fewer people, the better." The car drove towards the awakening Stanton city. Sophia leaned back in her seat, exhaustion washing over her like a tide. But her mind was unusually clear. Today, she would confront the assistant who had betrayed her, retrieve the core technology vital to her company's fate, and go head-to-head with an international criminal organization. And the man beside her, the fiancé she had once despised, was now the only partner she could trust. Perhaps more than just a partner. Sophia stole a glance at Ethan's profile and found him looking back at her. They shared a smile, an unspoken understanding blossoming in the early morning light. Sterling Tower, bathed in the early morning light, lacked its usual weekday bustle. Only a couple of security guards loitered near the entrance. Disguised as executives in for overtime, Sophia and Ethan passed through security with ease. "Lily Mays' office, what floor?" Ethan asked in a low voice once they were in the elevator. 32nd, right next to mine." Sophia pressed the button, her heart rate accelerating with the elevator's ascent. The impending confrontation with her trusted assistant of 5 years, now a suspected traitor, made her stomach churn. Ethan seemed to sense her unease. "Whatever we find, remember we're here for the quantum core." The elevator doors opened onto a deserted office floor, illuminated only by emergency lights. Sophia's footsteps echoed unnervingly in the silence, each one feeling like a step on her own frayed nerves. Lily's office door was closed, but a faint light seeped from beneath it. "Someone's in there." Ethan pulled Sophia behind him, pressing his ear to the door. Sophia closed her eyes, trying to summon her mind-reading ability, but it seemed to have deserted her again today. It had been erratic ever since the warehouse incident, like a radio with a faulty signal. Ethan gently tried the doorknob, locked. He pulled a small multi-tool from his pocket, and, after a few deft manipulations, the lock clicked softly. "Wait." Sophia suddenly grabbed his arm. "If she's in there, then we'll get some answers." Ethan's eyes sharpened as he pushed the door open and slipped inside. The office was empty, but the computer screen was on, a cup of coffee still steaming beside it, indicating the occupant had left only moments ago. What was she looking for? Sophia hurried to the computer. The screen displayed an encrypted folder, requiring an iris scan to open. Ethan quickly checked the rest of the office. No listening devices, but he stopped in front of a bookshelf. "This is hollow." He gently pushed the bookshelf. It rotated silently, revealing a hidden room. Sophia gasped. The walls of the secret room were covered in photographs. Her father, her mother, herself, even Ethan. Timelines and connection diagrams linked the photos, resembling a crazed detective's evidence board. At the center was a newspaper clipping about her mother's car accident, with key details circled in red. "Oh my God!" Sophia's legs felt weak. "How long has she been spying on us?" Ethan examined the equipment in the secret room. Professional-grade surveillance gear. At least 3 years. He pointed to a small server. "She's recorded every conversation in your office." Sophia's gaze fell on one photo, the last one of her and her mother together at the charity gala. Written across it in red ink were the words, "Target confirmed." She was involved in my mother's murder. Sophia's voice trembled. Ethan quickly photographed all the evidence. "We need to hurry. She could be back any minute." Sophia forced herself to calm down. "First, the quantum core. My father said it's in his private safe." They returned to Lily's computer. "We need her iris scanned to unlock this," Ethan frowned. Unless what? Unless you have admin privileges." Ethan looked at Sophia. "You're the CEO. You should have top-level access." Sophia immediately sat down, inserted her security key, and typed in her password. The system flickered, then accepted her credentials. "Search for Quantum Core or Genesis Project Core," Ethan suggested. Sophia quickly typed the keywords. Several encrypted files appeared. She clicked on the first one, and the screen filled with complex code and design schematics. "This is the Quantum Core," she frowned. "It looks like ordinary software." Ethan leaned closer to the screen. "No, this is the interface program. The core itself should be a physical object. He paused, pointing to a file name in the corner of the screen. Open that. The file opened, revealing a video. Sophia clicked play. The footage showed a laboratory she'd never seen before. Several people in white lab coats bustled around a piece of equipment. Standing at the center was a familiar figure, her mother, Eleanor Sterling. Is that, Mom? Sophia held her breath. In the video, Eleanor was explaining something. Phase 3 testing successful. Neural interface stability has reached 95%, far exceeding expectations. Subject SXX07 is showing significant cognitive enhancement. The screen suddenly switched to a brain scan image of a young girl. Sophia's blood ran cold. The girl was her. What is this? She gripped Ethan's arm. When did I ever participate in a test like this? Ethan's expression grew extremely serious. Keep watching. In the video, Eleanor continued. The application of quantum entanglement effects in biological neural systems has proven viable. The SX series will be the breakthrough for next-generation communication technology, but must remain strictly confidential until. The video abruptly cut off, replaced by a password prompt. It's been edited. Ethan tried to recover the file, but the system indicated higher-level authorization was required. Sophia's mind raced. She had no memory of participating in any neural experiments, but the girl in the video was undeniably her, and she looked to be around college age. The Genesis Project, she murmured. My mother was one of its founders. Ethan suddenly looked up, alert. Someone's coming. They quickly closed the files, and Sophia removed her security key. The sound of the office doorknob turning was clearly audible. Ethan pulled Sophia into the secret room, leaving only a narrow gap to observe. Lily Mays walked into the office. She looked nothing like the meek assistant Sophia knew. She was dressed in black tactical gear, her eyes sharp as a hawk's. She went straight to the computer, noticed the files had been closed, and her head snapped up, scanning the room. Come out, Ms. Sterling. Her voice was cold. I know it's you. Sophia and Ethan exchanged a look. Discovery was inevitable. Ethan gestured for him to go out first. Long time no see, Mr. Vance. Lily actually smiled when Ethan emerged from the secret room. I knew you'd bring her here. Lily. Ethan remained vigilant. Or should I call you Nightingale? Lily raised an eyebrow. You know more than I thought. Richard Sterling tell you. Not much, but enough to put you away for a long time. Ethan moved slowly, trying to position himself in front of the computer. Lily chuckled. So touching. Still playing the protector. Do you even know what she is, Ethan? Do you know what the SX series means? Sophia could bear it no longer and stepped out of the secret room. That's enough, Lily. 4 or 5 years. I treated you like a sister. Is this how you repay me? A flicker of emotion crossed Lily's face, but it quickly hardened. Corporate spies don't do sentiment, Ms. Sterling. Besides, her gaze turned eerie. Your mother owed Nixnet. Someone had to pay up. Where's the quantum core? Sophia asked bluntly. Lily walked to her desk and took a small metal box from a drawer. Right here. But your mother hid more than just the core, didn't she? Her eyes fixed on Sophia meaningfully. She hid the key to the entire SX project. Sophia felt as if her blood had turned to ice. What are you talking about? You think that mind-reading ability is natural? Lily sneered. That's the quantum neural interface your mother implanted in your brain. Subject 7 of the SX project. The information exploded in Sophia's mind like a bomb. Her mind-reading was artificial, the result of her mother's experiments. Ethan seized the opportunity, lunging at Lily. They grappled fiercely. Lily was surprisingly skilled, landing an elbow strike on Ethan's existing wound. Blood immediately soaked through his shirt. Ethan! Sophia started forward, but saw Lily pull a gun. The muzzle was aimed at Ethan's head. In that split second, a sharp pain shot through Sophia's brain, and then Lily's thoughts flooded in like an electric current. Kill the bodyguard first, then take her. Nixnet will pay anything for a live specimen. No time to think. Sophia grabbed the heavy bronze award trophy from the desk and hurled it with all her might at Lily's wrist. The trophy struck true. The gun clattered to the floor. Ethan used the opening to execute a leg sweep, taking Lily down and quickly subduing her. The core, he yelled at Sophia. Get the core. Sophia snatched the metal box and quickly copied the critical files from the computer onto a portable hard drive. You won't get away, Lily sneered, even while restrained. Nixnet has infiltrated the entire city. You think I'm their only asset? Ethan used a cable to tie her to the chair. Then let them come find us. They were about to leave when Lily suddenly shouted, Sophia Sterling, don't you want to know how your mother really died? Sophia froze. It wasn't a car accident. Lily's voice turned sinister. It was an execution, because she refused to hand over the core data for the SX project, your brain scan results. Ethan pulled Sophia. Don't listen to her. Let's go. They'd barely burst out of the office when the entire floor's fire sprinkler system activated, alarms blaring throughout the building. She triggered the alarm. Ethan pulled Sophia towards the emergency stairs. Security will lock down the whole building. They ran through the downpour from the sprinklers. Sophia's heart hammered, the metal box in her hand feeling impossibly heavy. Lily's words echoed in her mind. Her mind reading was experimental. Her mother was killed for it. Reaching the 15th floor, Ethan suddenly stopped. Security guards below. Sophia tried to use her mind reading. This time it responded she heard 2 guards talking. They're lying in wait. Ethan scanned their surroundings. Service elevator. Goes to the underground garage. They changed course, carefully avoiding surveillance cameras. The service elevator took them to the underground garage, but the exit was already guarded. Follow me. Ethan led her behind a support pillar to a small door marked maintenance. Beyond the door was a narrow maintenance tunnel, winding towards the building's periphery. The damp air was thick with the smell of oil and dust. Sophia's shoes were soaked, squelching with every step. Where does this tunnel go? She whispered. To the basement of the office building next door, Ethan replied. I saw it in the security plans. At the end of the tunnel was a locked iron gate. Ethan pulled out his multi-tool and pried it open in seconds. They emerged into the utility area of the adjacent building, quietly blended in with a handful of Saturday overtime workers, and finally exited safely through the main entrance. Ethan's car was parked nearby. As soon as they were inside, Sophia eagerly opened the metal box. Inside lay a thumb-sized transparent crystal with tiny, shimmering gold filaments within. This is the quantum core. She picked it up gingerly. Ethan nodded. Looks like it. We need to find a secure place to examine it. My place, Sophia decided. The most dangerous place is often the safest. On the drive back, Sophia's mind was a maelstrom. Lily's words, the video footage, her mother's experiments. It all pointed to an unavoidable question. What, exactly, was she? A normal businesswoman or a living experiment? Don't overthink it. Ethan seemed to read her turmoil. We'll have answers once we analyze the core in these files. Sophia looked at him, noticing his shirt was soaked through with a fresh patch of blood. Your wound has reopened. We need to treat it immediately. Safety first, Ethan insisted. Sophia's penthouse was in one of the city's most exclusive residential complexes, with 24-hour security. Ethan parked in the underground VIP garage, and they took a private elevator straight to the top floor. The moment they were inside, Sophia pulled Ethan towards the bathroom. Take off your shirt. I'll rebandage it. Ethan didn't argue, sitting down obediently. The wound was worse than she'd thought. Lily's blow had torn open the partially healed flesh. Sophia carefully cleaned, sutured, and bandaged it using the first aid kit. Throughout the process, Ethan didn't make a sound, but she could see the pain in his clenched jaw and the beads of sweat on his forehead. There, she applied the final dressing. No strenuous activity for a while. Ethan tried moving his arm. Good work. Audited some pre-med classes, Sophia said, putting away the kit. Then she remembered. Wait, how do you know the passcode to my apartment? I never told you. Ethan looked sheepish. Security protocols. So, you've been able to get into my apartment all this time? Sophia's eyes widened. For 3 years. Just routine checks. Ethan explained hastily, to ensure there were no listening devices or security breaches. Sophia should have been angry, but instead, a strange sense of comfort washed over her. Even in her loneliest moments, someone had been silently watching over her. Anything else I don't know? She asked, half joking. Ethan's expression suddenly turned serious. A lot. For instance, he hesitated. I know you read for half an hour before bed, that you play the piano when you're stressed, that you... His words trailed off as Sophia suddenly took his hand. Thank you, she said softly. Thank you for always protecting me. Ethan's pupils dilated slightly. The space between them seemed to shrink. Sophia could smell the faint metallic tang of blood mixed with his cologne, could see her own reflection in his blue eyes. Just as their lips were about to meet, Sophia's phone rang. They broke apart as if startled. The caller ID showed an unknown number. Sophia answered. Her father's weak voice came through. The core is just the beginning. They want you. Dad, where are you? Where's the doctor? Sophia asked urgently. Listen to me. Richard Sterling's voice was intermittent. The SX project, not just technology. Your mother protected you. The call abruptly ended. Redialing went straight to voicemail. Sophia and Ethan stared at each other. We need to analyze this data fast. Ethan produced the portable hard drive copied from Lily's computer. They inserted the quantum core into a special reader connected to Ethan's secure laptop. The screen flickered, then displayed a series of complex neural maps and algorithms. This is... Ethan frowned, studying it. Some kind of quantum encryption protocol for a neural interface. Sophia opened a video file, this time viewing the complete version. In it, her mother, Eleanor Sterling, explained the true nature of the SX project, using quantum entanglement principles to achieve direct information transfer between human brains. Subject: 7 exhibits stable remote sensory perception, Eleanor said in the video. But side effects include intermittent headaches and short-term memory disruptions. Sophia's hand unconsciously went to the back of her neck. There was a tiny, almost invisible scar there, one she'd always assumed was from a childhood vaccination. Is this the implant site? She asked, her voice trembling. Ethan carefully examined the spot. Typical incision for a microimplant. It seems Lily was telling the truth. Your mind-reading ability is indeed a product of technology. The truth hit Sophia like a ton of bricks. She'd always thought she was abnormal, never dreaming this abnormality was the result of her mother's meticulously designed experiment. But why? She was bewildered. Why give me this ability? The latter half of the video provided the answer. Eleanor faced the camera, her expression grave. If NixNet obtains this technology, they will be able to silently invade anyone's mind, stealing the highest level secrets. I must protect SX-07 at all costs. The video ended abruptly, the last frame frozen on Eleanor's tear-filled eyes. Tears streamed silently down Sophia's face. Now she understood. Her mother hadn't simply been murdered. She had sacrificed herself to protect her, to protect this technology that could be weaponized. Ethan gently put his arm around her shoulders. Now we know their real target. Not just the core, but you. Sophia wiped her tears, her eyes hardening with resolve. Then let's give them a surprise. She stood, walked to her safe, entered the combination, and retrieved an old leather-bound notebook, her mother's private research journal. If they want me, let them come. Sophia opened the notebook. The first page read, SX-07 Guardianship Protocol. But this time I'll be ready. Ethan joined her, and they examined the notebook together. The first page held a baby picture. The date beneath it made Sophia's entire body go cold. It wasn't her birth date. It was 3 months earlier. This can't be. Her voice trembled. Mom said I was premature. Ethan's expression turned exceptionally grave. Sophia, I think the truth about the SX project might be far more complex than you imagine. Sophia's fingers trembled as she traced the outline of the baby in the photograph. The date beneath it felt like a shard of ice, piercing through 30 years of her self-perception. This is impossible. Her voice was barely a whisper. Mom said I was born 3 weeks early. She had hospital records. Ethan gently took the notebook and turned to the next page. A faded copy of a birth certificate was taped there, but the information on it made Sophia's blood run cold. Infant name: SX-07. Mother: Eleanor Reed. Father: blank. Place of birth: Princeton Biotech Institute, New Jersey. What is this place? Sophia's voice began to shake. I've never been to New Jersey. Ethan's expression grew extremely serious. Princeton Biotech. 20 years ago, it was at the forefront of genetic research. It was shut down later due to ethical concerns. Sophia shot to her feet, her knee banging against the coffee table unnoticed. She hurried to the bookshelf, pulling out an album from the bottom shelf, her childhood album. Frantically, she flipped to the baby pictures. The black and white photos she'd seen countless times now looked deeply suspicious. No hospital backgrounds, no pictures of her parents together, just her alone in various home-like cribs. It's all fake. Her nails dug into the album cover. My entire childhood was fabricated. Ethan came to her side. He hesitated, then gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Sophia, calm down. Maybe there's a reasonable explanation. Reasonable? She spun around, tears welling in her eyes. What reasonable explanation accounts for someone being secretly manufactured as an experiment? Ethan didn't flinch. His blue eyes met hers directly. However you came into this world, you are you. Sophia Sterling, CEO of Sterling Enterprises, a smart, strong, flesh and blood, formidable woman. His words were like a lifeline, pulling Sophia back from the brink of collapse. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to regain composure. Keep reading the journal, she said, biting her lip. I need to know everything. They returned to the sofa and continued to go through the notebook. As they turned the pages, an astounding truth began to emerge. The SX project was not a simple neurotech experiment, but an endeavor aimed at creating a new generation of humans with special abilities through gene editing and quantum neural technology. Sophia was Subject 7, the only success to survive to adulthood. It says here, Sophia's voice trembled. SX-07 exhibits stable quantum entanglement effects, capable of receiving specific neural signal frequencies without external equipment. That's my mind reading. Ethan turned to the last page. Tucked inside was a letter. The envelope, addressed in familiar handwriting, read, "To my daughter, Sophia, when you read this, I will be gone." Sophia's tears finally broke free. It was her mother's handwriting. She'd recognize it anywhere. With trembling fingers, she opened the envelope. "My dear Sophia, if you are reading this, it means NixNet is close to the truth. First, please forgive me for everything I've hidden from you. You are not an ordinary child, but please believe you are a life I nurtured with all my love." The letter confirmed the journal's entries. Eleanor Sterling had indeed been the lead scientist on the SX project. However, she gradually realized the technology could be weaponized. When the project's funder, NixNet, demanded all test subjects, she fled back to the U.S. with the only survivor, SX-07, Sophia. "I temporarily sealed your abilities, hoping you could live a normal life. But quantum entanglement is irreversible. As you reached adulthood, your abilities would gradually manifest. The chip in the Genesis project contains a control program designed to help you stabilize them." The last paragraph read, "Whatever happens, remember you are the hope for humanity's future, not a weapon. I love you more than all the stars in the universe." Sophia pressed the letter tightly to her chest, as if to feel her mother's presence. All the fragmented memories began to coalesce. The occasional flashes of a laboratory, her natural aptitude for neuroscience, the intermittent mind reading. It all made sense. "So NixNet is after me not just for the chip," she murmured, "but for me, this live specimen." Ethan's expression turned exceptionally grim. "This is far more serious than I imagined. We need a contact." He stopped abruptly. "Contact who?" Sophia keenly sensed his hesitation. Ethan seemed to wrestle with an internal conflict before finally making a decision. "The International Emerging Technology Regulation Agency, IETRA. I'm one of their field operatives." The confession hit like a sledgehammer. Sophia stared wide-eyed. "You? Who do you work for?" "Nominally, Global Secure Solutions. In reality, I take directives from IETRA." Ethan's voice was low. "I was assigned to protect you 3 years ago because the agency received intelligence that NixNet was tracking SX project survivors." Sophia's mind reeled. Another lie? Another hidden identity? She suddenly wasn't sure what she could believe anymore. "Well, else don't I know?" Her voice turned cold. "Does my father know your real identity?" Ethan nodded. "He contacted IETRA. Your mother had revealed parts of the truth to him before she died, so he always knew about the NixNet threat." Sophia stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. The city lights blazed below, so familiar yet so alien. She had thought she was part of this world, but now she felt like an outsider. "I need time to process this." She pressed her forehead against the cool glass. Ethan didn't disturb her, quietly checking his weapons and communication gear. Sophia watched his reflection in the glass, his movements practiced and efficient. How many faces did this man have? The meek fiancé, the skilled bodyguard, the secret agent. Which one was real? Suddenly, Ethan's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen, his expression changing instantly. "The safe house has been compromised. Lily Mays is leading a team this way." Sophia spun around. "How did they find us?" "No idea, but we have to move now." Ethan quickly gathered essential items. "Grab the core and the journal. Leave everything else." They just reached the door when the elevator dinged, announcing its arrival. Ethan yanked Sophia back. Too late. Fire escape. The emergency stairwell was at the end of the hall. They were halfway down when they heard a clatter of footsteps from below. Ethan immediately changed direction. "To the roof. I have a car parked on the next building over." They raced upwards, the sound of their pursuers drawing closer. Sophia's lungs burned, but fear lent her strength. Ethan was on the phone as they ran. Code red, requesting immediate evac. Reaching the rooftop, a gust of night wind whipped around them. Ethan pulled Sophia towards the edge. The rooftop of the adjacent building was about 3 stories lower. "Jump," he pointed to the gap between the buildings. Sophia looked at the chasm, at least 10 feet across, and her legs turned to jelly. "I can't." "You can." Ethan gripped her shoulders. "Think of the strength your mother gave you." The door behind them burst open. Lily's voice echoed. "Get them. I want them alive." No time to hesitate. Sophia backed up, then sprinted, launching herself from the edge. Time seemed to slow. She saw herself suspended over the city, 100 feet below. Then her feet slammed onto the edge of the opposite rooftop. She stumbled, but managed to stay upright. "Ethan!" she yelled, turning back. Ethan had already jumped, but as he was mid-air, a gunshot cracked through the night. The bullet hit his thigh. He crashed onto the edge of the roof, half his body dangling precariously. "No!" Sophia lunged, grabbing his hand. Ethan's weight nearly pulled her over. She clung to his wrist, her nails digging into his skin. Their pursuers were preparing to make the same jump. "Let go!" Ethan struggled. "You'll be dragged down." Sophia gritted her teeth, pulling with all her might. "Shut up. Hold on." In that life-or-death moment, a strange sensation spread from the scar on the back of her neck. It felt like an electric current surging through her. Her vision sharpened incredibly. She could see the individual beads of sweat on Ethan's skin. A power not her own flooded her limbs. She pulled Ethan up with one arm. Their pursuers clearly saw this superhuman feat. Someone shouted, "It's the SX ability. Report to HQ." Ethan, ignoring his leg wound, pulled Sophia up. "That's the Quantum Core's emergency response. It won't last long." They stumbled down the stairs, Ethan's blood leaving a trail. By the time they reached the garage, Sophia's extraordinary strength was fading, replaced by excruciating muscle pain. A black SUV flashed its headlights. A stranger waved to them. "Ethan, over here." Ethan sighed in relief. "IERA contact." They'd barely jumped into the SUV when the driver slammed the accelerator, peeling out of the garage. In the rearview mirror, Lily Mays' team was just arriving at the garage entrance. "Where to?" the driver asked curtly. "Safe House Zeta," Ethan said, tearing his pant leg to examine the wound. Bullet went clean through. "Not too bad." Sophia used the car's first aid kit to quickly bandage his leg, while warily observing the stranger. He looked to be in his early 40s, Asian American, with a strange tattoo on his right wrist, eye entwined with chains. "Who are you?" she asked directly. "Mark Wu, IETRA's Asia-Pacific Operations Director." The man glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Heard a lot about you, SX-07. The designation made Sophia bristle. "My name is Sophia Sterling." Mark smiled faintly. "Of course. Apologies. Old habits." He turned to Ethan. "The situation is worse than we thought. NixNet has practically mobilized its entire network. They're scouring the globe for anyone and anything related to the SX project. Why the sudden urgency?" Ethan frowned. "Breakthrough in quantum computing," Mark said, swerving onto the highway. "They've finally figured out how to stabilize quantum states. All they need now is the SX project's neural interface technology to complete their thought weapon." Sophia remembered her mother's warning in the letter. Thought weapon. What's that? A device capable of remotely reading, interfering with, or even controlling another person's thoughts. Mark's voice grew heavy. Imagine if terrorists could directly access a world leader's decisions or induce mass hallucinations in an entire army. The possibility cast a pall over the car. Sophia suddenly understood why her mother would rather die than let this secret fall into the wrong hands. Such technology, in the possession of evil, would be a catastrophe for all humanity. The SUV pulled into a deserted industrial park on the outskirts of the city, finally stopping before an unassuming small building. Mark led them into a safe house that looked Spartan but was equipped with advanced technology. "You're safe here for now." Mark booted up several computers. "We need to analyze the data you brought, find a way to counter NixNet." Ethan was settled onto a medical cot, and a man who looked like a doctor began treating his gunshot wound. Sophia sat in a corner, rereading her mother's journal, searching for more clues. As she reached the middle section, a photograph slipped out. It was of her as a young child. In a laboratory, various electrodes attached to her body. Her mother stood beside her, taking notes. On the back of the photo was a date and a short line. SX-07 fifth ability test. Quantum entanglement effect stable at 78%. Looking at the photo, a buried memory suddenly exploded in Sophia's mind. A white laboratory, a cold metal table, her small body strapped down, a blinding light overhead. Her mother's tear-filled eyes. "Just a little longer, sweetie, it'll be over soon." Then excruciating pain, spreading from the back of her neck down her entire spine, as if someone had lit a fire in her brain. "Ah!" Sophia clutched her head in agony. The physiological reaction to the memory was so intense, she nearly vomited. Ethan was instantly by her side. "What's wrong?" I remember." She gasped. "The implantation surgery. It hurts so much." Ethan gently held her trembling body. Don't force yourself to remember. It's over now. His embrace was so warm that Sophia unconsciously leaned closer. In that moment, this man's presence was her only anchor, keeping her from being swept away by the flood of memories. Mark approached, handing her a glass of water. According to our intel, your mother destroyed all SX project data before fleeing the U.S., taking only the most critical component, the quantum neural interface inside you and the control chip from the Genesis project. Sophia slowly calmed down. So, the Genesis project was on the surface AI research. In reality, it was your mother's tool for perfecting the quantum neural interface. Mark pulled up a file. She hoped one day to safely remove or control your abilities. Ethan picked up the thread. That's also why your father insisted you study neuroscience. He hoped you could master the technology yourself. Sophia's mind raced, all the pieces falling into place. So what now? Nixnet clearly won't give up. Mark and Ethan exchanged a look. We have two options, Mark said. 1. Completely remove the quantum chip from your body, but that could be life-threatening. 2. Finish what your mother started, find a way to control your abilities, and then use them to fight back against Nixnet. I choose the second option, Sophia said without hesitation. I won't spend my life hiding like a rat. Ethan frowned. That's too dangerous. Activating the quantum neural interface could have unpredictable side effects. Worse than being a living experiment. Sophia looked him straight in the eye. My mother gave me this ability for a reason. Maybe I exist for this very day. Mark nodded. I'll contact HQ, prepare the necessary equipment. In the meantime, he handed Sophia a small device. This is a quantum signal jammer. It can temporarily shield your internal chip from Nixnet's detection. Sophia took the device, noticing Ethan's still worried expression. What is it? She asked softly. Ethan's voice was so low only she could hear. Don't want to see you get hurt again. His words landed like a warm drop on Sophia's heart. She gently took his hand. I'll be fine. You're here to protect me. Remember? Ethan managed a weak smile, but the worry in his eyes remained. Sophia suddenly realized that this man, who always protected others, also needed protection. Not just his body, but his heart. Mark's communicator suddenly buzzed. He listened, his face paling. Nixnet has attacked 3 of our safe houses. How did they? Before he could finish, the safe house's alarm system shrieked. Surveillance monitors showed several black SUVs rapidly approaching. Impossible. Mark rushed to the computer. Only HQ knows this location. Ethan shot to his feet, ignoring his leg wound. We have a mole. We need to evacuate now. Sophia quickly gathered the critical data, but it was too late. The first explosion rocked the entire building. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Lights flickered and died, leaving only the dim glow of emergency lights. Back door. Mark grabbed a weapon. Follow me. They'd barely burst out the back door when a group of heavily armed men in black surrounded them. Mark and Ethan immediately returned fire, but they were outnumbered. Drop your weapons, a familiar voice commanded. Lily Mae stepped out from the crowd, a handgun in her grip. I'll kill SX-07 right now. Ethan hesitated. That brief pause gave the enemy an opening. An operative lunged, striking him hard on the back of the neck. Ethan grunted and collapsed. Ethan! Sophia tried to rush to him, but was intercepted by Lily. Don't worry. The boss wants you both alive, Lily sneered. A live specimen and a rogue agent, both very valuable. Mark attempted to fight back, but was shot in the chest. Blood instantly soaked his shirt. He crumpled to his knees, gasping to Sophia the chip. Control program. Password is your birthday. Before he could finish, another bullet silenced him. Sophia was roughly shoved into one of the SUVs, while Ethan was thrown into another. Through the window, she watched in despair as the 2 vehicles sped off in different directions. Don't look so sad. Lily, seated beside her, taunted. You'll be reunited soon enough. In the lab, Sophia didn't answer. Her fingers stealthily moved to her pocket, where the quantum core now rested. In the chaos, she'd managed to transfer it from her bag. It was her only hope now. As the SUV sped into the night, Sophia closed her eyes, trying to reach out with that newly awakened ability. If she truly was a product of the SX project, then maybe she could do something. She focused all her attention, imagining her consciousness spreading like radio waves. At first, there was only darkness and silence. Then, a faint signal appeared, like a distant echo. The signal grew stronger, gradually forming a clear thought. It was Ethan. He was in the other vehicle, already planning an escape. More astonishingly, Sophia could feel a connection between them, like an invisible thread linking two quantumly entangled particles, regardless of distance. Wait for me, she thought silently. I'll find you. Just then, Lily's phone rang. She answered, her face contorting in fury. What? Escaped? How is that possible? Sophia's heart leaped. Ethan, he'd escaped. Lily slammed the phone down, glaring at Sophia. Looks like your bodyguard is tougher than we thought. She pulled out a syringe. But it doesn't matter. Once we have you under control, he'll come willingly. The needle pierced Sophia's neck, and a cold liquid flooded her veins. Her vision blurred. Her last conscious thought a resolute vow. Find Ethan. Fulfill Mom's mission. Stop Nixnet. Then the world went dark. Darkness. Boundless darkness. Sophia felt herself adrift in a void. No up or down. No passage of time. She wasn't even sure if she still existed. The drug Lily had injected acted like a thick wall, completely severing her consciousness from the outside world. After an immeasurable period, a pinprick of light appeared in the darkness. It gradually expanded, forming a tunnel-like passage. Sophia's consciousness was irresistibly drawn into it. At the end of the tunnel was a pure white room. Walls, ceiling, and floor were all of flawless, seamless white. In the center of the room stood a metal table, connected to various instruments. A familiar figure stood beside it, Eleanor Sterling, her mother. Mom! Sophia's voice echoed strangely in the space. Eleanor turned, a gentle smile on her face. But something was wrong. Her form was translucent, its edges flickering slightly, like a hologram rather than a physical being. This isn't real, Sophia murmured. I'm unconscious. In a manner of speaking, yes. Eleanor's voice was both near and distant. You are currently in a quantum consciousness space, a special state created by the quantum core in your brain. Sophia looked down at her own hands. They too were translucent. The realization should have been terrifying, but in this space, emotion seemed filtered, leaving only clear thought. Are you real? She asked tentatively. Eleanor's smile was tinged with sadness. I am a digital consciousness construct left by your mother, an AI model based on her brain scans and memories. I manifest when the quantum core within you is activated by a specific frequency. Sophia approached the metal table. On it lay a miniature version of a neural interface device, identical to the implant at the back of her neck. Where is this? She looked around. My imagination? Or, this is your quantum consciousness core, Eleanor explained. The drug suppressed your normal consciousness, but unexpectedly activated the quantum core's potential. What you're seeing is the materialization of quantum information within your brain. Sophia suddenly remembered something far more critical. Ethan, he was captured. Time flows differently here than the outside world. Eleanor interrupted. You have an opportunity to learn the truth, then decide how to act. She waved her hand, and images flickered into existence on the white walls. An infant lay on a metal table, electrodes attached to its tiny body. The infant was wailing, while younger Eleanor stood by, tears in her eyes, yet resolutely completing a procedure. Is that me? Sophia's voice trembled. Subject 7 of the SX project, Eleanor nodded, and the only specimen to survive to adulthood. The scene shifted to a complex laboratory. Dozens of researchers in white lab coats bustled about. A banner on the wall read, SX Project, Quantum Neural Interfaces and Human Potential Development. 20 years ago, I was recruited into this top-secret project, Eleanor continued. The initial goal was to develop brain-computer interfaces to help paralyzed patients. But with breakthroughs in quantum computing, the research direction changed. The image changed again, showing military officials touring the lab. They wanted to create super soldiers, special forces capable of remotely reading enemy minds, even interfering with their decision-making. The SX series was designed for this. Sophia watched the images of her younger self, strapped into a test chair, a strange device on her head, researchers recording her responses. I don't remember any of this, she said softly, because I sealed these memories before I took you away. Eleanor's image flickered. I wanted you to have a normal life, at least until you reached adulthood. A wave of dizziness hit Sophia, and the white room began to distort. When she regained her footing, she found herself in an unfamiliar children's room. Pink walls, a bed piled high with stuffed animals, cartoon stickers on the wall. This is your implanted false childhood memories. Eleanor appeared beside her. A disguise carefully constructed for you by Richard Sterling. He's a good man. He genuinely loved you as his daughter. Sophia picked up a photo frame from the nightstand. In the picture, she was about 5 or 6, standing between Richard Sterling and a mother figure, smiling brightly. But it wasn't Eleanor. It was a stranger. For your safety, we had to do this. Eleanor's voice was full of apology. NixNet was relentlessly hunting for SX Project survivors. The dizziness returned. This time, Sophia found herself on a rain-slicked highway at night, a mangled car ahead of her. Eleanor was slumped over the steering wheel, blood trickling from her forehead. Mom's accident. Sophia's heart pounded. Not an accident. Eleanor stood beside her. When I realized NixNet had tracked us down, I deliberately staged this accident. Only then would they stop their pursuit. You weren't in the car, the current Eleanor explained. I had already sent you to a safe location. When NixNet's agents arrived, they only found my body and a falsified experiment report suggesting all SX specimens had been destroyed. Sophia knelt in the pouring rain, her tears mixing with the downpour. For 20 years, she had believed her mother died in an accident, never knowing it was a meticulously planned self-sacrifice. Why tell me this now? She looked up. Because NixNet has found you. Eleanor's expression turned serious. And the seals on the quantum core are breaking. You must learn to control it, or else. The white room suddenly vibrated violently, cracks appearing on the walls. What's happening? Sophia asked in alarm. The drug's effects are wearing off. Eleanor's image became unstable. Listen, Sophia, the quantum core isn't just a receiver. It can also transmit. You can use it to contact Ethan. How? Focus your thoughts, visualize him. Let the quantum entanglement effect establish a connection. Eleanor's voice grew fainter. Remember, you are not a weapon. You are. The room suddenly collapsed, and Sophia's consciousness plunged back into darkness. But this time, there was a faint but steady point of light in the blackness. Ethan's presence. She could feel him. In the real world, Ethan's temples throbbed. The wound in his leg had stopped bleeding, but each step sent a sharp jolt of pain. He was hidden in an air duct directly above NixNet's temporary base. His escape had been easier than anticipated. Lily had underestimated his combat skills, and the agents escorting him had used standard handcuffs. 30 seconds on a bumpy road had given him his chance. A concealed blade and 2 precise elbow strikes later, he was free. The metal grating of the air duct creaked softly beneath him. Ethan held his breath, observing the room below, a surveillance room, with only one guard idly flipping through a magazine. The perfect entry point. He gently removed the vent cover and dropped silently to the floor. The guard didn't even have time to look up before a chop to the neck knocked him unconscious. Ethan quickly tied up the guard and turned to the monitors. Dozens of screens displayed various parts of the base, armed patrols, laboratories holding cells. His breath caught when he saw the last screen. Sophia lay in a transparent pod, various monitoring devices attached to her. Her face was pale, but her chest rose and fell rhythmically. She was alive. Ethan quickly pinpointed the room's location. Sector B, Lab 7. He pulled up the base schematics on a nearby terminal, planning the fastest route. Just then, the main monitor flashed with an incoming encrypted communication request. Instinct told him to ignore it, but a gut feeling made him accept the call. The screen lit up, displaying a figure wearing a silver mask. Agent Vance, I knew you'd find your way here. Ethan narrowed his eyes. Who are you? You can call me Silver Star. The masked figure's voice was digitally altered. IETRA has ordered a full retreat. Why are you still risking your neck? I don't abandon missions, Ethan said coolly, simultaneously continuing to download base data from the terminal. Interesting, Silver Star chuckled. Especially considering your initial assignment was merely to surveil Sophia Sterling. Ethan's fingers froze on the keyboard. What are you talking about? 3 years ago, IETRA assigned you to monitor potential SX project survivors, Silver Star said slowly. Your bodyguard cover, your fabricated engagement, all designed to observe if she exhibited any anomalous abilities. Cold sweat trickled down Ethan's spine. That was indeed part of his mission briefing, top secret information. And now you're defying orders to save her, Silver Star continued. What changed? Did you fall in love with your target? Ethan abruptly drew his pistol and fired at the screen. The monitor exploded into fragments. He didn't care how this person knew. His only goal now was to save Sophia. Alarms immediately blared throughout the base. Ethan grabbed the submachine gun he'd taken from the guard and burst out of the surveillance room. Following the memorized route, he turned left into the B sector corridor and ran straight into 2 patrolling agents. A firefight erupted in the narrow passage. Ethan used the walls for ricochet shots, precisely hitting one agent's knee and another shoulder. He wasn't aiming to kill, Time was critical. He just needed to clear obstacles. Rounding the last corner, the door to Lab E7 was in sight. Two heavily armed guards were already in position, their weapons trained on the corridor. Ethan quickly assessed the situation. No cover. A frontal assault was suicide. Just as he hesitated, a strange sensation prickled the back of his neck, like an electric current flowing down his spine. Simultaneously, a voice echoed clearly in his mind. The guard on the left, his guns jammed. The one on the right always aims low first. That voice. It was Sophia's. No time to ponder the paranormal. Ethan chose to trust the voice. He slid out from cover. Sure enough, the left guard's weapon misfired, while the right guard's bullets slammed into the wall just above his thighs. 2 precise shots, and the guards were down. Ethan sprinted to the lab door, swiping a guard's access card to open the electronic lock. Inside, in the central transparent pod, Sophia still lay with her eyes closed. But Ethan noticed her fingers twitching slightly. She was trying to wake up. Sophia. He rushed to the pod, searching for an opening mechanism. The pod suddenly hissed, its top panel slowly retracting. At the same moment, Sophia's eyes snapped open, an unnatural golden light flickering within her pupils. Ethan. Her voice had a strange, resonant quality. I saw everything. Ethan reached to help her up, but felt a jolt like an electric shock the moment his skin touched hers. Stranger still, images he'd never seen before flashed through his mind. A white room, Eleanor Sterling's hologram, and his own photograph, pinned to a wall somewhere. You were in my head, he asked, stunned. The golden light in Sophia's eyes gradually faded. She looked exhausted, but lucid. Not just in. We established a quantum entanglement link. Temporarily, she struggled to sit up. No time to explain. We have to leave. They want to use me to activate their thought weapon. Ethan helped her detach the electrode patches. Can you walk? Sophia nodded, though her movements were unsteady. Ethan supported her as they moved towards the door, warily scanning the corridor. Wait. Sophia suddenly stopped. The core. Did they take the Genesis Project's quantum core? Ethan shook his head. I don't know, but Mark said the password was your birthday. Reversed. Sophia's eyes lit up. Dad said at the warehouse, my birthday reversed. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the end of the corridor. Pursuers were closing in. No time. Ethan pulled her towards an emergency exit. We got out of here first. They stumbled through a maintenance tunnel and emerged outside the base. Night had fallen, and a torrential downpour had begun, providing excellent cover. Ethan's communicator suddenly vibrated. IETRA's emergency channel. He hesitated, then answered. Ethan, where are you? A familiar female voice. HQ is sending extraction. Coordinates are being sent to your locator. Anna. Ethan was surprised to hear his former partner. I thought you guys pulled out. Change of plans, Anna said urgently. NixNet has initiated the Silver Star Protocol. Move fast, we have 2 choppers inbound. Ethan looked at Sophia. She nodded, clearly having overheard the communication. Moving to extraction point, Ethan replied. ETA, 15 minutes. The communication ended. Sophia suddenly gripped Ethan's arm. No, she's lying. What? Anna's my most trusted partner. I felt something. Sophia frowned. When you said her name, an image of a silver mask flashed in my mind. Ethan's face changed. Silver Star? You're saying Anna is. A gunshot cut him off. The bullet slammed into Ethan's shoulder, and he staggered against a wall. Run. Ethan shoved Sophia, raising his weapon to return fire. Sophia didn't run. Instead, she stood beside him, closed her eyes, and concentrated. 20 yards away, Lily Mays and a team of agents materialized through the rain. Something extraordinary happened. She saw each enemy's position, even anticipated their next moves. Third from the left is about to throw a flashbang, she whispered to Ethan. Ethan instantly adjusted his aim and shot the agent in the wrist. The flashbang dropped, exploding and disorienting the enemy lines. Using the confusion, they retreated behind a concrete wall for temporary cover. Bullets slammed into the wall, showering them with debris. Your ability, Ethan panted. It's stronger than I thought. Sophia gave a weak smile. And more draining. Blood trickled from her nose. I feel almost out of power. Ethan checked his ammunition. Only 7 rounds left. The situation looked hopeless, but years of combat experience told him that desperation often bred opportunity. Listen, he gripped Sophia's hand tightly. I'll create an opening. You run for those trees. Don't look back. Sophia shook her head fiercely. No, I'm not leaving you. This isn't a request. It's an order. Ethan's eyes hardened. The quantum core is more important than both our lives. As they argued, an unexpected sound came from above, the thrumming of helicopter rotors. Not one, but three. Powerful searchlights cut through the rain, pinning Lily Mays and her team. All units, drop your weapons. A commanding male voice boomed through a loudspeaker. This is Interpol Special Operations. You are surrounded. Ethan and Sophia stared at each other in astonishment. This wasn't ITRA. Dad, Sophia murmured. Indeed, on the second helicopter, Richard Sterling was clearly visible. He still looked weak, but his gaze was firm as steel. Lily Mays' team fell into disarray. Someone fired at the helicopters and was immediately met with return fire. Under this cover, Ethan and Sophia moved towards a tree line. Just as they were about to reach safety, Sophia suddenly stopped and turned back towards the base. The golden light flared in her pupils again. What is it? Ethan asked, alarmed. Sophia's expression turned to one of abject terror. He's here. Who? Silver Star. Her voice trembled. And he is. A deafening explosion cut her off. A fireball erupted from the center of the base, the shockwave knocking everyone to the ground. When Ethan struggled to his feet, he saw a familiar figure on the third helicopter, issuing commands through a loudspeaker. The figure removed a silver mask, revealing a face both Sophia and Ethan recognized. Marcus Thorne. Welcome to the Real SX Project, Agent Vance. Thorne's voice, amplified, carried a chilling amusement. You thought you were protecting her? No, you merely delivered her to me. Sophia's body shook violently. She looked from Thorne's triumphant face back to the chaos on the ground. The truth from the night of their escape crashing down on her with renewed, horrifying clarity. You. Her voice was a trembling whisper, the single word carrying the weight of a world-shattering betrayal. My uncle. Marcus Thorne descended gracefully from the helicopter, two heavily armed bodyguards immediately opening black umbrellas over him. He wore a bespoke three-piece suit, looking utterly out of place amidst the chaos. Niece, or should I say, Subject SX-07. His smile was like a serpent's kiss. We finally meet formally. Ethan stepped in front of Sophia, though blood steadily seeped from his shoulder wound. Stay away from her. Thorne didn't even glance at Ethan, merely flicking his wrist. An invisible force slammed Ethan several meters back, and he crashed heavily against a tree trunk. Ethan! Sophia tried to rush to him, but was blocked by two special ops soldiers. Don't worry, he won't die. Thorne approached her, tilting her chin up with his fingers. Such a perfect specimen. Your sister would be so proud of you. Sophia's pupils contracted sharply. Sister? Oh, it seems Eleanor didn't even tell you that. Thorne feigned exaggerated surprise. I am your dear uncle, Marcus Thorne. Of course, I use my mother's surname. A family tradition. The information struck Sophia like a physical blow. Her mind raced, replaying memories, Thorne's absence from family albums, his unusual knowledge of neuroscience, even the strikingly similar curve of his eyes to her mother's. It all made sense. You betrayed Mom. Sophia's voice was a mere whisper. Thorne's expression instantly darkened. Betrayal? I saved the SX project. When your hypocritical sister decided to destroy all her research, I preserved the data. He grabbed Sophia's arm, his grip so tight she cried out in pain. For 20 years, I've waited for this moment. Your quantum neural interface has finally matured. Combined with the Genesis chip, we will make history. Sophia struggled, but Thorne's strength was astounding. Just then, a gunshot split the rainy night. Blood spurted from Thorne's arm. He yelped in pain, releasing Sophia, and spun to face the source of the shot. Ethan, kneeling, the muzzle of his gun still smoking. His face was pale, but his eyes were as sharp as daggers. I said, stay away from her. Thorne's face twisted for a moment, then settled back into that chilling smile. Ah, Agent Vance. I almost forgot about you. IETRA's pride, the pawn sent to watch my niece. He turned to Sophia. Did you know? This man has been deceiving you from the start. His fiancée identity was a sham. Those chance encounters were meticulously planned. Even his concern for you was part of the mission. Sophia looked at Ethan. His gaze flickered, but he didn't deny it. I know, she said calmly, but I also know everything that happened later was real. Her words made Ethan's pupils dilate slightly. Even in this life-or-death situation, Sophia could see a flicker of light in his eyes. Thorne sneered. How touching. Unfortunately, he pulled a small device from his pocket and pressed a button. Game over. The device emitted a piercing hum. The implant site at the back of Sophia's neck erupted in excruciating pain, as if someone had set her brain on fire. She screamed and collapsed, her vision consumed by a blinding golden light. Sophia. Ethan tried to reach her, but was restrained by Thorn's bodyguards. Don't worry, this is just the activation sequence. Thorn looked down at the convulsing Sophia. Your sister installed security locks in your brain. It requires a specific frequency to fully unlock the quantum neural interface. Sophia's consciousness faded amidst the agony. In a daze, she found herself back in the pure white room, her mother's image standing in the center. Mom, she called out in her mind. Eleanor's image was clearer than before. Sophia, listen to me. Marcus is my brother, but he betrayed humanity long ago. He wants to use your abilities to control a global consciousness network. What should I do? Sophia's mental form trembled. Accept me. Eleanor extended her hand. Let my final programming fully merge with you. This will temporarily remove all limitations, but the cost. What cost? You may no longer be entirely yourself. Tears welled in Eleanor's eyes. Quantum entanglement is irreversible. Once we merge, parts of my memories and personality will become part of you. In the real world, Thorn was directing his men to carry Sophia onto the helicopter. Ethan was pinned to the ground by 4 special ops soldiers, forced to watch. Let her go. Ethan roared, struggling, blood pouring from his shoulder and leg wounds. Thorn crouched down, his lips close to Ethan's ear. Did you know? She's more precious than you imagine. SX-07 isn't just any test subject. She's the key to unlocking the consciousness of all humanity. He stood, adjusting his suit cuffs. Bring him along. An ITRA agent's brain scan data might prove useful. Just as a soldier was about to inject Ethan with a sedative, a blinding golden light erupted from inside the helicopter. Everyone instinctively shut their eyes. When their vision cleared, they beheld a terrifying sight. Sophia was levitating in the helicopter doorway, a golden aura surrounding her. Her eyes were entirely golden, her long hair flowing as if in an unfelt wind. More unnervingly, when she spoke, her voice had an eerie, dual quality, as if 2 people were speaking at once. Marcus Thorn, you have failed our mother's hopes. For the first time, genuine fear flickered across Thorn's face. Impossible. Without the Genesis chip, how could you activate the full interface? Because the chip was never the key. The dual voice of Sophia, or Sophia and Eleanor merged, floated gently to the ground. I am. She extended her hand towards the soldiers holding Ethan. Astonishingly, the 4 men suddenly released him, turned stiffly like puppets, and aimed their weapons at Thorn. You can control minds? Thorn's face was ashen as he stumbled backward. Temporarily. Locally, the dual voice replied. But enough to deal with you. Thorn suddenly laughed, a crazed sound. You think this is over? NixNet has deployed 37 quantum nodes globally. Even without you, the plan will proceed. He slammed another button. All the special ops soldiers, including himself, suddenly froze, then collapsed like puppets with their strings cut. Ethan struggled to Sophia's side. What happened? Neural override. Sophia's golden aura began to dim. He implanted a kill switch in his own men. Her voice trailed off, her body suddenly pitching forward. Ethan caught her just in time. Her golden eyes faded back to their normal color, though her pupils remained dilated. And she gasped his name. The chip. Password. Ethan held her tightly. Don't talk. We need to get out of here. Sophia shook her head, using her last strength to grip his collar. Password. My birthday. Reversed. Plus. Your name. Her arm fell limply. She was unconscious. Ethan's heart nearly stopped, only steadying when he confirmed she was still breathing. Far off, the thrum of more helicopters approached. This time, genuine Interpol forces. Ethan lifted Sophia into his arms and started towards the approaching rescue teams. Each step sent searing pain through his wounds, but the weight in his arms made him grit his teeth and persevere. Hang on, Sophia, he murmured. This time, I'm taking you home. 3 days later, in a private room at Sterling Medical Center, Sophia opened her eyes to a white ceiling and the familiar scent of antiseptic. She tried to wiggle her fingers and found her right hand enveloped in something warm. Ethan's hand. He was asleep in a chair beside her bed, his head resting against the wall, a stubble shadowing his jaw. He'd clearly been there for a while. Sunlight streamed through a gap in the curtains, catching on his eyelashes, casting tiny shadows. Sophia watched the man who had risked everything for her, an unprecedented warmth spreading through her chest. She moved her fingers slightly. Ethan woke instantly, the worry in his blue eyes transforming into relief when he saw her awake. You're awake. His voice was hoarse. How do you feel? Sophia tried to sit up. Ethan quickly helped her, adjusting her pillows. Easy. The doctor said your brain experienced severe overload. You need to recover slowly. How long was I out? She asked, her voice clearer than she expected. 3 days. Ethan pressed the call button. Thorne escaped, but Interpol has raided his labs in 3 countries. Sophia nodded, then remembered. The Genesis chip. Secure. Ethan smiled. The password you gave me before you passed out worked. ITRA's tech team has locked the chip in a quantum-encrypted vault. A nurse entered, performed a basic check on Sophia, confirmed her vitals were stable, and left. The room fell quiet again, save for the rhythmic beeping of the monitor. Ethan. Sophia hesitated. While I was unconscious, I had a lot of dreams. Ethan's expression turned serious. About what? About Mom. About the truth of the SX project. Her fingers unconsciously toyed with the bedsheet. I saw a lot of memories. Some were mine. Some were Mom's. Ethan gently took her hand. Side effects of the quantum fusion. Sophia looked at him in surprise. You know, I guess. Ethan gave a wry smile. The way you were speaking sounded a lot like Dr. Sterling. The sunlight intensified, illuminating every corner of the room. Sophia gazed out at the blue sky and suddenly asked, that day, Thorne said you were assigned to monitor me. Is that true? Ethan visibly tensed but didn't avoid her gaze. Initially, yes. ITRA received intel that NixNet was hunting for SX project survivors. I was assigned to confirm your identity and assess the risk. And then, Sophia's voice was surprisingly calm. And then, Ethan's eyes softened. Then I discovered you were just a girl trying to live a normal life. A smart, strong, sometimes infuriatingly stubborn girl. He gently lifted her hand to his cheek. The mission became protection. Surveillance became love. I know it sounds like an excuse, but I believe you, Sophia interrupted, because during the quantum link, I saw your memories. In your heart. A flicker of surprise crossed Ethan's eyes, then melted into relief. Then you also saw how foolish. Sophia's lips curved upwards slightly. I was going to say in love with you, Ethan chuckled, a touch of resignation in his tone. Sophia suddenly leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. The gesture made them both pause, outside the quantum consciousness space. This was their first deliberate attempt to connect. Close your eyes, she whispered. Ethan complied. At first, only darkness. Then, a sliver of golden light ignited deep within his consciousness, expanding into images. He saw himself, from Sophia's perspective. Their first meeting in the company hallway, him secretly watching her at the charity gala, him protecting her in a hail of bullets. Each image was bathed in a warm glow, Sophia's emotional projection. Is this how you see me? He asked softly. Sophia didn't answer, but Ethan felt a wave of warmth flood his consciousness. Her answer, more direct than any words. The extraordinary connection lasted a few seconds, then naturally faded. They both opened their eyes to find themselves close enough to feel each other's breath. That's way better than mind reading, Ethan said, half joking, trying to slow his racing heart. Sophia suddenly grew serious. Ethan, there's something else. In the fusion state, Mom. Dr. Sterling's memory showed that NixNet's global consciousness network is 90% complete. Ethan's expression also turned grave. The 37 quantum nodes Thorne mentioned? More than that. Sophia shook her head. The latest intel suggests 63, spread across major cities worldwide. Once activated combined with my neural schematics, they could remotely influence anyone's thoughts. Ethan finished her sentence. That's more dangerous than nuclear weapons. A knock on the door. A nurse poked her head in. Ms. Sterling, there's a visitor insisting on seeing you. He says he's your father. Sophia and Ethan exchanged a surprised look. Let him in, Sophia said. The door opened again, but it wasn't Richard Sterling who entered. It was a middle-aged man in a white lab coat. Ethan immediately stepped in front of the bed, on guard. Relax, Agent Vance. The man held up his hands. I'm Dr. Chun, ITRA's chief scientist. Proof, Ethan said coldly. Dr. Chun pulled out an ID and a small device from his pocket. This is a quantum authenticator. It can verify my identity. After checking, Ethan relaxed slightly, but remained by Sophia's side. What is it? Dr. Chen's expression became extremely serious. We've analyzed the Genesis chip and data recovered from Thorne's base. The situation is worse than we imagined. The global consciousness network isn't just a theory. It's in its final testing phase. We know, Sophia said. 63 nodes. Dr. Chen shook his head. No, the number of nodes isn't the key. It's the activation method. He took a deep breath. Thorn needs more than just your neural schematics. He needs your living brain as the central processor. The temperature in the room seemed to plummet. Ethan's hand unconsciously clenched into a fist. What do you mean? Literally. Dr. Chen said heavily. According to the data, the ultimate goal of the SX project was to create a living consciousness hub. Dr. Sterling clearly had a change of heart, but Thorn and Nixnet intend to complete the original plan. Sophia's face turned pale. So from the very beginning, I was designed to be this hub? I'm afraid so. Dr. Chen nodded. The good news is, without the Genesis chip, they can't complete the final activation. The bad news. He hesitated. The chip merely increases the success rate. Theoretically, under extreme conditions, they could force an interface. Ethan's voice was like ice. What extreme conditions? When a host is on the brink of death, the quantum neural interface will spontaneously seek a connection. Dr. Chen's words sent a shiver down Sophia's spine. This was exactly what her mother's memories had warned. Quantum entanglement is irreversible. Once the network was active, even without the chip, her consciousness would be forcibly pulled into that massive connection. Is there a solution? Ethan asked the crucial question. Dr. Chen hesitated. Theoretically, if we activate the network first with Ms. Sterling in control instead of Nixnet. Too risky. Ethan interrupted. That's asking her to fight Nixnet's entire consciousness alone. No. Sophia spoke up suddenly. Perhaps it's the only way. She looked at Ethan, her eyes shining with resolve. Instead of being forcibly interfaced, I'll take the initiative. Mom. Dr. Sterling's memories contain control protocols. With the Genesis chip, I might be able to reverse control the network. Ethan wanted to object, but seeing her determined gaze, the words died on his lips, replaced by, what do we need to prepare? Dr. Chen seemed relieved. IETRA has a quantum isolation lab ready. Once it begins, no external interference can interrupt the process. Thorn will stop at nothing to prevent it, Sophia reminded them. So we find him first. Ethan's eyes burned with fighting spirit. Before he launches his attack. Dr. Chen nodded. One more thing. According to the data, this network requires a secondary node, an individual quantumly entangled with the primary controller, to act as a stabilizer. Sophia and Ethan looked at each other simultaneously. A terrible suspicion dawned on them. No way. Ethan muttered. Dr. Chen nodded gravely. Agent Vance, according to your medical records, you also have quantum markers, currently dormant. It's highly probable that you, too, are part of the SX project. This revelation exploded in the room like a bomb. Ethan's face turned ashen. That's impossible. My memories could have been blocked or altered, Dr. Chen said, but the data doesn't lie. Your quantum signature is paired with Ms. Sterling's. Sophia reached out and took Ethan's trembling hand. In the consciousness space, I felt our connection was exceptionally strong. Ethan's mind raced, piecing together fragments, his hazy childhood, frequent reassignments, even his unusual aptitude for neuroscience. It all pointed to a possibility he didn't want to face. So, his voice was dry. I'm an experiment too? Or a guardian, Sophia said softly. Mom. Dr. Sterling's memories indicated SX-07 was designed with a compatible stabilizer. Perhaps that's you. Dr. Chen's communicator suddenly beeped. He listened, his face contorting. Emergency. Thorn's men have attacked Mr. Sterling's rehabilitation center. Dad. Sophia tried to get out of bed, but was gently pushed back by Ethan. I'll go. Ethan was already grabbing his jacket. You stay here. Increase SECU. His words were cut off by the sound of an explosion rocking the hospital. The entire building shook violently, alarms shrieking. They found us here. Dr. Chen sprinted for the door. Emergency stairwell. Without a word, Ethan scooped Sophia into his arms and followed Dr. Chen out of the room. The hallway was already filled with smoke. Gunshots and screams echoed in the distance. Not Thorn style. Sophia coughed. Too overt. Could be a diversion. Ethan turned into an emergency stairwell. The real attack might come from within. As if to prove his point, a silver-clad figure suddenly flashed up from the stairs below. Ethan instinctively spun to shield Sophia. A tranquilizer dart whizzed past his neck. Silver Star. Sophia recognized the iconic mask. No, not him. Ethan stared at the figure. Wrong build. The person in the silver mask slowly removed it, revealing a face they both knew. Anna Riley, Ethan's former ITRA partner. Long time no see, Ethan. She smiled, raising her gun. Hand over SX-07, and the boss has promised to leave your body intact. Ethan shielded Sophia. Anna. What? Money, power, a seat at the table in the New World Order. Anna's aim was steady. Do the reasons matter? In the standoff, Sophia suddenly closed her eyes. When she opened them again, a flicker of gold glinted in her pupils. Anna's gun abruptly swiveled, aiming at her own temple. Anna's pupils dilated, her gun hand shaking violently. Cold sweat trickled down her temples as she fought against an invisible force. What? What did you do to me? Her voice was a strained hiss. The golden light in Sophia's eyes intensified. A trickle of blood ran from her nose, unnoticed. Drop the gun, Anna. Ethan watched in stunned silence. Sophia could directly control someone's actions, but she looked terrible, her face nearly translucent, her body swaying. Sophia, stop. He steadied her trembling shoulders. This is too dangerous for you. Anna's gun clattered to the floor. She crumpled like a marionette with its strings cut. Simultaneously, Sophia lost consciousness, collapsing into Ethan's arms. Ms. Sterling has overloaded her quantum neural interface. Dr. Chun checked Anna's pulse. Quickly, this is just the first wave. Ethan carried Sophia, following Dr. Chun down the stairs. The hospital corridors were chaotic, staff pushing gurneys, no one paying them any mind. Car at the back entrance. Dr. Chun led them through a narrow service hallway. IETRA safe vehicle. They'd barely burst out the back door when a black SUV flashed its headlights. Ethan instinctively slowed, only relaxing when he recognized the driver. Mark Wu, his chest still bandaged but alive. Get in, Mark yelled. HQ has been compromised. We're on our own. Ethan laid Sophia in the back seat, Dr. Chun jumping into the passenger side. The car shot forward, tires screeching. How is she? Mark glanced in the rearview mirror at the unconscious Sophia. Quantum overload, Dr. Chun answered quickly. We must activate the Genesis chip immediately, or her nervous system will collapse. Ethan wiped the blood from Sophia's face with his sleeve. Activate it? Now. It's too dangerous. No choice. Dr. Chun turned, handing him a small device. This is a portable quantum stabilizer. It can temporarily balance her consciousness. But the ultimate solution is to complete the interface with the control chip. Ethan took the device and, following instructions, placed it on the back of Sophia's neck. A soft blue light emanated from it, and her furrowed brow relaxed slightly. Where are we going? He asked grimly. Mark and Dr. Chun exchanged a look. The only safe place, Sterling Enterprises' subterranean research lab. What? Ethan looked up sharply. Isn't that under Nixnet's control? Ostensibly, Mark said, swerving to avoid an ambulance. But your father-in-law, Richard Sterling, had a contingency. The lowest level of the lab contains a quantum isolation chamber. Not even Thorne knows it exists. Ethan looked down at Sophia in his arms. Her pale face still bore traces of pain. He gently smoothed the lines on her forehead, silently vowing never to let her get hurt again. The car pulled into the underground parking garage of Sterling Tower. Mark expertly navigated around surveillance cameras, stopping at a concealed service elevator. This elevator goes directly to sublevel B5, Dr. Chun said, swiping a card to activate it. An emergency access route Richard Sterling designed into the building. As the elevator descended, Ethan noticed Sophia's fingers begin to twitch. She's waking up, he said softly. Not exactly waking, Dr. Chun's expression was grave, more like entering an intermediate state. Her consciousness is self-regulating. The elevator doors opened onto a narrow corridor leading to a heavy metal door. Mark entered a complex passcode and performed an iris scan before the door slowly swung open. The space inside was larger than expected. At its center was a transparent, cylindrical chamber, surrounded by advanced instrumentation. Most strikingly, a blue glowing crystal, the Genesis chip, hovered above the chamber. The quantum isolation chamber. Dr. Chun hurried to a control console. Once activated, no external signals can penetrate. Ethan gently placed Sophia on a platform inside the chamber. What now? First, complete the chip interface, Dr. Chun began activating a series of devices. Mark stood guard at the door, weapon ready, scanning the corridor. We don't have much time. Thorne will track us here. Ethan nodded and turned to Dr. Chun. Is there anything I can do? Dr. Chun hesitated. Theoretically, as her quantum stabilizer, you could enhance her control, but it's very risky. If anything goes wrong during the connection, tell me what to do. Ethan's voice brooked no refusal. Enter the chamber. Hold her hand. Dr. Chun adjusted the control panel. Physical contact strengthens the quantum entanglement effect. Without hesitation, Ethan stepped into the chamber, lay down beside Sophia, and gently took her left hand. Her fingers were cold but twitched slightly in his palm, as if in response. Ready? Dr. Chun asked. Ethan took a deep breath. Begin. Dr. Chun pressed the final button. The chamber slowly sealed. The Genesis chip descended, hovering and rotating just above Sophia's forehead. A beam of blue light shot from the chip, connecting with the implant site at the back of her neck. In an instant, Ethan felt an electric shock course through him. His vision was filled with blinding blue light, and then he was suddenly in a bizarre space. There was no up or down, only countless flowing data streams and shimmering quantum nodes. He floated in this virtual cosmos, seeing Sophia nearby. A golden aura surrounded her as she confronted a silver figure. It was Thorn. Ethan tried to reach her, but found he couldn't move. He then noticed a glowing chain attached to his wrist, its other end disappearing into the depths of the data streams. Don't struggle, Agent Vance, a familiar voice said. Ethan turned to see another Marcus Thorn, or rather, Thorn's digital projection. This is the quantum consciousness space, Thorn explained with a smile. And you are merely a low-level ancillary connection, permitted only to observe. Let me go, Ethan roared, yanking at the chain. Thorn shook his head. Why bother? Soon you'll understand. This was all fated. SX-07 and her stabilizer. Such a perfect pair. He waved his hand, and a data stream appeared, showing two DNA helices intertwined. Your genes and Sophia's are complementary. Her quantum neural interface requires your specific brainwave frequency for stability. From birth, you were destined for each other. Ethan felt as if his chest had been crushed. You're lying. Why deny it? Thorn sneered. Think about why you felt an instant connection, why you could so easily establish a quantum link. It's all genetic programming. Nearby, Sophia also heard this exchange. Her golden pupils widened. No, that's not true. The silver projection confronting her, another of Thorn's avatars, laughed. My dear niece, you think love is a choice? No, it's merely a product of chemical signals and quantum entanglement. The golden aura around Sophia flickered, and the data space began to tremble. Thorn's words were like poison, eroding her will. Seeing this, Ethan's anger transformed into determination. He stopped struggling and closed his eyes, focusing all his attention on one point, the connection between him and Sophia. The chain began to glow, brighter and brighter. Thorn watched in astonishment as the data streams started to shift. Impossible! He tried to regain control of the chain. A stabilizer shouldn't have independent consciousness. Ethan opened his eyes. A faint golden light now emanated from his pupils as well. You're wrong, Thorn. Genes may arrange the meeting, but the heart chooses for itself. The chain shattered. Ethan was free. He rushed towards Sophia, data streams parting before him automatically. Thorn's avatar tried to intercept, but was thrown back by an invisible force. Ethan and Sophia drew closer, their quantum signatures resonating in the virtual space. The moment their hands touched, a dazzling white light erupted, engulfing the entire data space. Thorn's projection twisted and screamed in the white light. No, you don't understand what you're doing. The quantum network must be completed. The white light intensified, and the data space began to collapse. Ethan held Sophia tightly, whispering in her ear, no matter how the genes were arranged, my heart chose you. The golden light in Sophia's eyes merged with Ethan's, creating an unprecedented wave of energy. Thorn's projection disintegrated before this power like a sandcastle. Mom was right. Sophia's voice had a dual tone. Love isn't a program. It's a variable beyond quantum mechanics. In the real world, the Genesis chip in the isolation chamber suddenly pulsed with blinding white light. Dr. Chun and Mark had to shield their eyes. What's happening? Mark yelled. They're rewriting the quantum protocol. Dr. Chun stared at the wildly fluctuating data. My God, they're destroying the global network nodes from within. Just then, the lab door exploded inwards. A team of heavily armed operatives stormed in, led by Marcus Thorn himself. Stop the procedure, he roared, aiming his weapon at Dr. Chun. Mark immediately returned fire, and a fierce gunfight erupted. Bullets flew across the lab, shattering equipment, but the quantum isolation chamber remained untouched, just as Dr. Chun had said. No external interference could penetrate it. Thorn saw the situation inside the chamber, his face contorting with rage. No, They can't do this. He frantically mashed buttons on the control console, but the system was no longer responding to external commands. The white light from the Genesis chip grew even stronger, tiny bolts of lightning now arcing within the chamber. In the quantum consciousness space, Ethan and Sophia, hand in hand, floated amidst the collapsing data streams. Around them, quantum nodes winked out of existence one by one. The global network was being dismantled. Only one node left, Sophia said softly. The central control unit. Ethan nodded. Together, they moved towards the last, brightest node. Just as they were about to reach it, a familiar figure appeared before it. Eleanor Sterling's digital projection. Mom. Sophia stopped in surprise. No, Sophia, that's not your mother. Ethan pulled her back, alarmed. Clever stabilizer. The core control unit naturally takes the form of its founder. He spread his arms, and the node behind him began to warp, transforming into a massive, black hole-like vortex. But do you really want to destroy it? Think of the benefits this technology could bring. Curing brain diseases, helping the disabled, even achieving conscious immortality. Sophia hesitated for a split second, but then shook her head firmly. Any power that can be abused is too dangerous. Mom, Dr. Sterling understood that in the end. Fools! Thorne roared. Then perish with it. The vortex abruptly expanded, attempting to swallow them. Ethan held Sophia tight, shielding her with his body. In that desperate moment, a beam of golden light shot from the depths of the data streams, striking Thorne's projection. Astonishingly, within this golden light, the true image of Eleanor Sterling was faintly visible. Mom! Sophia couldn't believe her eyes. The golden Eleanor didn't speak but smiled gently and nodded, then dissolved into countless golden particles that enveloped the vortex. The vortex began to shrink under their influence. No! Thorne's projection struggled desperately. This is my life's work. Goodbye, Uncle, Sophia said softly, and together with Ethan, pushed their final combined mental energy towards the vortex. After a silent explosion, the quantum consciousness space returned to calm. The last data streams dissipated, leaving only Ethan and Sophia floating in the void. Is it over? Ethan asked. Sophia looked around. The network core is destroyed, but she frowned suddenly, reaching out to touch a point in the emptiness. Wait, there's a hidden connection. A tiny data packet, signed by Eleanor Sterling, suddenly materialized. Sophia carefully opened it. Inside was a message. To my daughter, if you are reading this, you made the right choice. This connection leads to the true origin of the SX project, Project Seraphim. When you are ready for the whole truth, follow the quantum markers home. With love, your mother. Ethan and Sophia stared at each other. Project Seraphim? Ethan frowned. Never heard of it. Before Sophia could reply, she felt a strong pulling sensation. The connection is breaking. We have to return to the real world. Hand in hand, they closed their eyes, allowing their consciousness to be drawn back to their bodies. In the real world, the white light within the quantum isolation chamber suddenly extinguished. The Genesis chip fell from its suspended position, and Ethan caught it. He and Sophia opened their eyes simultaneously, gasping for air as if they had just surfaced from deep water. Outside the chamber, the firefight had just ended. Mark leaned against a wall, clutching a bleeding arm. Dr. Chen was unconscious, and Marcus Thorne was being escorted out of the lab by Interpol agents. You did it, Mark asked, his voice strained. Ethan nodded, helping Sophia out of the chamber. The global quantum network is destroyed. Sophia, though weak, had a clear look in her eyes. But it's not over. Project Seraphim. Have you heard of it? Mark's expression suddenly turned strange. How do you know that name? Just then, the lab's main communication screen flickered on, displaying an unfamiliar symbol, a DNA helix rising from flames. A synthesized voice spoke. Activation code confirmed. SX-07 and stabilizer successfully paired. Initiating retrieval protocol. What retrieval protocol? Ethan instinctively shielded Sophia. Mark's face turned deathly pale. No, that's impossible. The image on the screen changed, showing a stealth aircraft approaching Sterling Tower. They're here. Mark's voice trembled. Project Seraphim has found you. Before Sophia or Ethan could react, all the lights in the lab suddenly went out, leaving only the dim glow of emergency lights. A deep voice, seemingly from nowhere, resonated through the room. Do not resist, children. It is time to come home. Several beams of blue light suddenly shot down from the ceiling, enveloping Sophia and Ethan. They were shocked to find their bodies becoming weightless, as if they were about to float. What is this? Ethan tried to grab Sophia's hand, but found his own was becoming translucent. Quantum teleportation. Sophia stared at her changing form in disbelief. But this technology shouldn't exist yet. Mark tried to rush towards them, but was blocked by an invisible barrier. Hold on, I'll find you. That was the last thing they heard. The blue light intensified. Sophia and Ethan's forms gradually dematerialized into countless particles of light, then vanished. The Genesis chip fell from where it had hovered, bounced a few times on the floor, and came to rest. When Sophia and Ethan regained consciousness, they found themselves lying in an unfamiliar white room. No windows, no discernible doors, only a soft, even light emanating from the ceiling. Where are we? Sophia struggled to sit up. Ethan was instantly by her side, warily scanning their surroundings. No idea, but definitely not the old lab. One wall of the room suddenly became transparent, revealing the scene beyond. A vast subterranean facility, dozens of personnel in white lab coats moving among advanced equipment. The most striking feature was a colossal spherical structure at the facility's center, its surface shimmering with strange energy patterns. "Welcome home, children," an elderly female voice said from behind them. Ethan and Sophia spun around to see a white-haired woman who had appeared silently in the room. She wore a simple white uniform, a pin on her chest bearing the flame and DNA symbol. "Who are you?" Ethan stepped in front of Sophia. The woman smiled gently. "You may call me Mentor. As for where you are," she walked towards a transparent wall. "This is the true home of Project Seraphim, the place where you were born." "Impossible," Sophia countered. "I was born in New Jersey." "No, my dear." Mentor turned, her eyes glinting strangely. New Jersey was merely a way station. You and Ethan were both created in this facility. The SX project was just one branch of Project Seraphim. She waved her hand, and holographic images appeared, showing two infants in special incubation pods. One was clearly Sophia, the other, unmistakably Ethan. "You were designed as a paired, quantum-entangled set," Mentor continued. "For security reasons, you were raised separately. Eleanor was responsible for your development, while Ethan was entrusted to IETRA for training." Ethan's mind reeled as he processed this. "So, we were retrieved because Phase 1 testing is complete," Mentor smiled. "You successfully resisted external control, proving that quantum entanglement can coexist with individual free will. Now it is time for Phase 2. "What's Phase 2? Sophia asked, her guard up. Mentor's smile widened. "The awakening. When two quantum-entangled subjects achieve full synchronization, they will be able to—" Her words were cut off by a sudden blaring alarm. The holographic images switched to red warning symbols, and a synthesized voice announced, "Security breach. External intrusion." For the first time, Mentor's composure wavered. "Impossible. This location is absolutely secret." Outside the transparent wall, personnel in the facility began to run in panic. Then they saw the intruders. Mark Wu, leading a team of heavily armed operatives. "Mark?" Ethan couldn't believe his eyes. Even more surprisingly, the IETRA insignia on Mark's chest had been replaced by an unfamiliar symbol, similar to Project Seraphim's, but with a sword piercing the DNA helix. "Found you." Mark's voice boomed through some kind of amplification system. "Hold tight, we're coming to get you." Mentor's face darkened. Foolish guardian organization, always interfering with the course of evolution. She quickly pressed a device on her wrist. The room began to rotate and descend like an elevator deeper into the facility. "Don't worry, children." Mentor's voice was remarkably calm amidst the alarms. "This is merely a temporary setback. Regardless, you are destined to be together, to complete the final stage of Project Seraphim." In the moving room, Sophia and Ethan tightly gripped each other's hands, unsure of what lay ahead, but certain of one thing. Whatever shocking truths awaited them, they would face them together. As the room descended, the last image they saw was Mark Wu, desperately trying to follow, his voice carried by the wind, reaching them. "Remember, no matter what they tell you, you are human first, then subjects."